Don't worry, I'm not very good at direct combat, but my skills aren't weak. Seeing Leon looking a bit peculiar in front of her, the woman couldn't help but smile as she continued talking as if no one else was around. The first test is the talent assessment. I might not be able to help you there, but if the second test turns out to be a group battle, I'm confident I can give your combat abilities a boost. As for the third practical test, although I'm not good at tasks, I'm quite adept at poisoning. If you can help me buy some time, I'm confident I can take down the majority of people here, directly eliminating 90% of your competitors. Feeling the hostile glares rapidly turning towards him, Leon couldn't help but feel a toothache, knowing this assessment might not go as smoothly as he had hoped. Dear sister, it's great to be confident, but when we're discussing conspiracy, can't you do it discreetly? Sure enough, the woman's overly blunt remarks quickly drew dissatisfaction from those around. Hee. Accompanied by a slightly contemptuous sneer, the man with horns turned around, his blue eyes scanning the people behind him, sneering disdainfully. I thought someone who dared to speak like this would be impressive, but it turns out just another level too cleaner? I'm standing right here. Try poisoning me. Upon hearing the man with horns, Armin's eyes lit up slightly. Then he said with a hint of surprise, Are you sure? Of course, Silence. A light shout came from above, interrupting the mundane little conflict. An elderly man with a Pisces emblem on his chest stepped out from the River of Dreams, landing on the ground below. With the appearance of the elderly man, over 400 fist-sized colorful bubbles surged down from the River of Dreams, merging like droplets into a larger, hazy realm, enveloping all the cleaners within. Responding, 419 people. Present, 419 people. No one opted out. Taking a careful look at Leon, the Pisces chairman at the center of the dream realm slowly sat on the ground, spreading an animal skin book on his knee, announcing to the more than 400 odd ones before him. In the name of the Pisces chairman of the Cleanup Bureau, I declare the first phase of this promotion assessment, the basic talent test, officially begins. With the elderly man's slightly phlegm-filled announcement, the surrounding hazy realm suddenly sharpened into a tiered classroom capable of holding hundreds. And the over 400 standing cleaners simultaneously sat down, arms placed on the tables before them, assuming a good student's posture, forced to gaze at the central podium. This test is simple. You just need to start drawing. After a slight cough, the Pisces chairman sitting cross-legged on the desk pointed behind him at the empty podium, speaking in slow motion. Behind me, a large tree will slowly grow, and you need to capture it on paper using the pen given. You don't have to worry about accuracy. Just draw. Alright, those are the rules for now. Go ahead and start. Wasn't this a talent test? What does drawing have to do with it? After hearing the subject of the first test, the cleaners looked at each other perplexed, but seeing the Pisces chairman already closed his eyes, clearly not ready to explain, they obediently started drawing. Except for Leon. Wasn't there supposed to be a tree? Holding the feather pen, Leon sat for ages without doing anything, listening to the sound of others scribbling away, seeing the still empty stage behind the Pisces chairman where not a hint of a tree had grown. He was starting to feel numb. With nothing there, what was he supposed to sketch at a market? Being one of those doing nothing when everyone else was, naturally made him stand out. Soon, the examinees next to Leon noticed his abnormality. Hee. Glancing at the blank paper in front of Leon, the bearer of horns chuckled dismissively, not even bothering to mock Leon, instead turning back to concentrate on drawing his idea of tree B, using fingers thicker than carrots. Shouldn't I check what he's drawing? With anxious perspiration forming, Leon couldn't resist leaning a bit, sneaking a peek at the horned fellow's paper. I'm not cheating, nor intending to copy his answer, merely seeking guidance on the format, hoping to sketch some twigs or branches for form's sake. Even jotting solution would be better than a blank page, right? But disappointingly, when Leon took a peek at the horned fellow's sheet, he didn't see a tree but rather a monstrosity. Put simply, what he sketched looked less like a tree and more like a centipede with 4 hooves and multiple horns. Even more bizarre was when Leon was caught staring. The hideous ant-like sketch raised its head from the paper, glaring furiously at Leon. What is this thing exactly? Realizing the answer couldn't be copied, Leon returned to his seat, forced into idleness. If nothing else, I'll just scribble something chaotic. I'll put more effort into the remaining exams. But as Leon gritted his teeth preparing for action, his right leg was lightly kicked by someone, and the edge of his vision caught sight of a partially filled examination sheet. When Leon tilted his head with surprise, he received an encouraging look from Armin, filling him with warmth, making the usually plain woman seem rather charming. Thanks. Armin, I'll be sure to thank you properly. Watching the paper painted wholly brown, spirally coiled like a snake emitting a compost-like scent of a lump tree, the gleam of joy in Leon's eyes dimmed rapidly. Right then, a dry cough emanated from the podium, and the still eye-closing Pisces chairman flexed his neck muscles, expressionlessly reminding. Adding one rule, you'd best draw what you actually see. If you let your imagination run wild, sketching things unseen, you'll have your consciousness crushed, expelled from the assessment. So carry on. Great, not even allowed to doodle nonsense now. Knowing instantly who the rule targeted, Leon, with a numb feeling, sighed, politely declining Armin's assistance, resigning himself to sit quietly, waiting for the exam's conclusion with a grim expression. But unbeknownst to Leon, someone with distinct black and white eyes was perplexedly observing his blank sheet through the encompassing dream realm, while on stage, with eyes still shut, the Pisces chairman penned a series of question marks on his scroll. Level 3 Virgin Branch Food Godleon Lane. Pretest. No bodily deviations. Mental stability maxed. Score 100. Test 1. Without specific strengths. No clear course of development. Unmatched affinity with Star Palace. Exceptionless limit. Score 0. 100. It seems that Leon's results in the first stage of the exam would surely be at the very bottom. After hearing Pisces director's warning about no random abstract painting, Amian glanced at the still blank exam paper on Leon's desk, slightly shook his head, then sat back up straight and gazed intently at the towering giant tree behind Pisces director. Twisted, gnarled, rotten, foul. Rather than branches and leaves, it was more like filthy fragments of animal and plant carcasses strung together by glass-like slender transparent rods, extending from the thick yellow and short helical tree body, swaying lightly in a melancholy yet indifferent manner. Below the giant monstrous tree was pure white soil buried with a pair of eyeballs and 10 fingers, and above it, replacing the sun, was a gigantic harp composed of 7 bright stars and 2 nebulae, slanting and leaning in the deep night sky. And a slightly ethereal, faceless, slender blind girl was stretching out her bare palm that resembled a fleshy ball, pretending to play hollow notes that no one could hear on the harp. Such a thing is indeed not easy to draw. After staring at the giant tree behind Pisces director for a long time, still not knowing how to continue his drawing, Amian pondered for a moment, then added 17 or 18 thin branch lines sprouting from the originally short, braided lump-like tree. Then, he drew a pair of circles dotted with ink as eyes under the tree, followed by 10 small cylinders representing fingers. He then sketched a G character at the top of the exam paper signifying a harp, and paired it with a stick figure of a woman without a face but clearly having breasts and a behind. Though it still wasn't quite right, the essence seemed to have been captured. After examining the maximally abstract answers on his exam paper, Amian couldn't help but nod in satisfaction, put down his pen, and began to wait for Pisces director to collect the papers. However, at that moment, a melodious hymn suddenly resounded from a seat 3 rows away from her. It was as if thousands of feather pillows had been simultaneously torn apart under the sun. Countless pure white feathers with gentle light sprayed into the air from a cleaner's exam paper, accompanied by a soaring and crisp female voice chanting, snowflakes drifting down everywhere. And then, caught off guard, the other cleaners touched by the falling feathers relaxed their brows and eyes, their anxious expressions instantly turning calm and serene, showing faces of reverence and longing. Yet, another part of them uncontrollably trembled violently, as if scalded by a red-hot iron, their skin marred by blackened scars from the feathers, their throats releasing uncontrolled cries of excruciating pain. Was that the purifier from the Scorpio branch? After glancing at the unmoved silhouette still focused on drawing amidst everything happening, Amian did not evade the feather already floating above her head. Instead, she curiously reached out to catch one. SSS. Accompanied by a piercing sound like hot oil meeting water, Amian's palm was instantly burnt black. A living feather-shaped burn mark appeared. But at the same time, as if stimulated by something, the abstract monstrous tree on Amian's exam paper wriggled twice, its helical roots actively pulling out from the soil, transforming into a thick yellow viscous murky stream, rudely sweeping around. Almost simultaneously, at the other side of the testing room, a cold gray mist suddenly exploded, a large amount of thin, sharp, semi-transparent air currents cutting through with a threatening momentum, leaving cleaners within the gray mist range covered in cuts. Damn it! What on earth is this? Weren't we supposed to be taking a drawing test? What are they doing? Lord Pisces, someone is cheating. Please wake up. Finally, someone completed the exam. Retrieving one eyeball from above Leon. Glancing at the chaos unfolding in the room, Pisces director, literally watching with one eye open and one eye closed, leisurely said, "Don't panic, this is all normal. No one is intentionally launching attacks. It's just the more talented among you showing their abilities with my aid. Additionally, you don't need to worry about getting hurt. What is staying in this room isn't your physical body, only your will. Under my protection, even if their abilities crush and squeeze you, you'd still immediately recover. Can't die?" Upon hearing Pisces director's explanation and observing the table and exam paper remain intact despite the sharp air currents, the cleaners' hearts gradually settled back down, and then, in one step, jumped right back into their throats. Ah! As Pisces director's explanation ended, the intensity of the white feathers, murky stream, and gray mist instantly rose a level, and screams rang out one after another. Cleaners within others' abilities' influence either got burnt black all over, were blooded from cuts, spawned 7 hands and 8 feet, or rotted from head to toe. The unluckiest ones even experienced several simultaneously, symptom following symptom, being revived in the enormous dream realm, only to face new rounds of torment, witnessing the miserable fate of several unlucky souls, who continuously cycled between life and death. Most cleaners present shivered collectively, eyes showing signs of fear. Indeed, you wouldn't die, but no one said it wouldn't hurt. The quicker you heal, the worse it hurts. Wait. Ah! No. This is unfair. Stop. Please stop. I quit. I quit the test. Quitting is not an option. Once you entered this exam room, only when the exam is entirely over can you leave. Raising their hands slightly to press down, forcing all the cleaners who wanted to flee others' abilities back to their original seats. Observing the constantly screaming cleaners, Pisces director couldn't help but shake his head and said, "Truly, every year has been worse than the last. Although your batch's mental stability isn't bad, your brains and resilience are the worst I've ever seen. If you had paid more attention, you'd easily notice that in the exam I set up, only talent can counter talent. Even if your talent is lacking, with some thinking, you could ward off damage from others' talents. Sigh. I guess I must tell you directly." With a deep sigh of disappointment, Pisces director closed his eyes again and announced the correct way to pass the first stage of the exam with a visibly low enthusiasm. Those who want to continue the exam, quickly pick up your pens, finish drawing your papers, and let your talents show too. Under the friction of others' abilities, your talents can be honed better. With self-surpassing, you can even achieve the weak overcoming the strong. But if your talent is entirely lacking, even if fully drawn out, could not withstand others' talent invasion. Can't you just hide if you can't win? Get under the table, won't you? Yeah. Why not just go under the desk? After being reminded by Director Pisces, the group of cleaners suddenly had a realization. These talented perverts, no matter how fierce the commotion they made, only collided above the desk and never invaded under it. Their bodies below the chest truly hadn't suffered any attacks. Seriously, if that's an option, why didn't you mention it earlier? With some complaints, they glanced at Director Pisces, who had his eyes closed. Over 2/3 of the cleaners, unable to bear the torturous examination environment, eagerly crawled under the desk, escaping the intense clash above with looks of relief after surviving a disaster. However, after crawling under the desk, they couldn't see the tree behind Director Pisces, so they couldn't continue drawing on their exam papers. No matter how splendid their tree, their scores were permanently fixed at the current level. Well, the first batch of 0-point failures has been filtered out. The black and white eyes circled the dream realm bubble, memorizing all the cleaners who chose to go under the desk. Sitting cross-legged on the podium, Director Pisces picked up a pen and started drawing zeros one by one in the animal skin notebook. The upper limit of a cleaner's ability is their talent, while the lower limit is the courage to face danger and the resilience to never give up in adversity. If you don't even have the courage to endure it once in a safe environment where there's no real danger of death or injury, no matter how good your talent is, you'll likely never have the chance to put it into practice. One must know that the enemies of the Cleanup Bureau are countless, and the variety of abnormal objects is vast. No one can guarantee they won't crash someday. Even the 12 directors sometimes face seemingly hopeless situations. If one doesn't have the courage to fight back in an absolutely safe situation, how could they possibly have the spirit to survive in desperate times? Such people can never achieve anything significant. Even if they get lucky, it's just a matter of time before they mess up. Forget it, let's give those under the desk 1 point. Giving all 0 is a bit too absolute. Looking at the losers under the desk, those who haven't completely given up but occasionally peek out and then lay back on the chair to continue drawing, Director Pisces hesitated slightly, then changed the scores again. Those who remain stuck without coming out still get 0 points. There's nothing worth expecting from them, but the others who are still peeking out deserve a 1-point attitude score. Although they lack the courage to face death, even knowing they won't die and can hone their talents, they still dare not fight. But as long as they haven't completely given up, they still have hope. With more life and death crises, they might develop the courage. But those are for the future. The remaining thirds still on their chairs, screaming and gritting their teeth while drawing, are the future pillars of the Bureau. No matter how long they can endure or what they can draw, they all deserve a passing score of 30 points. Contentedly, he glanced at the remaining cleaners, completing the basic scoring amidst their wailing cries. Director Pisces withdrew his gaze, waiting for the rest to showcase their talents. Under the immense pressure of the predecessor's talents, the remaining 100 or so cleaners could no longer harbor any extraneous thoughts, almost burning themselves out. Within less than 3 minutes, all cleaners not under the desks completed their papers, showcasing their unique talents. Rusty chains, masks without holes, a fox head with blue flames in the eye sockets, sewn dolls, withered mazes, a music box where 2 skeletons embrace and dance. All kinds of strange images struggled to emerge from the papers under the oppressive shadowy fog and flying feathers, protecting the cleaners around them, exhausted from drawing, like unfortunates falling into a sewer, drifting in the murky, yellowish current. Besides these insufficient talents barely holding up, there were about 20 other elites whose talents, although not as outstanding as the feathers and fog, were comparable to the murky current. The horned man on Leon's left was one of them. "Hey, I underestimated you." Holding the neck of the centipede he drew, after glancing at Leon, cut with gray mist and burned black by feathers, barely resembling a human, the horned man sneered and mocked. "Who knew that despite your mediocre talent, you're surprisingly resilient? Is there a possibility that I tolerate it so well because I don't feel any pain at all?" Through the detailed explanation of the Creator, and by observing and summarizing, you have gained a lot of information about talents. The abnormal badge Materialist Soul, Crimson, is activated. Completely understanding the operational rules of talents, your resistance to this abnormal object has greatly increased. You're now able to block its profound influence. After closing the pop-up panel, with blood and flesh rapidly retreating from his face, replaced by a mask without holes. Leon turned his head sideways, glanced at the heavily injured horned man, and responded rather politely. "Not bad, you're doing okay too." Listening to Leon's unwavering answer, and seeing his body crazily eroded by various talents, more akin to a monster than a human, the horned man's pupils contracted sharply. With his own talent protecting him, he only needed to endure the residual impact of 2 or 3 other talents. Yet he was in immense pain. Meanwhile, over 40 types of others' talents battered Leon. How could he sit there as if nothing happened? After replying, Leon sat back in his chair, expressionless. Well, likely expressionless, without any reaction, leaving the horned man in silence. This kid, he's quite outlandish. And that brazen woman beside him, the one in yellow, her talents were only slightly inferior to Angel and Death. So when she claimed confidently she could poison everyone for him to clinch first place, maybe it wasn't mere bluster. So even if I can't entirely eliminate this kid, I have to do something to suppress his score as much as possible. Director Pisces. After giving Leon a cautious glance, the horned man called out to the podium. "I've finished my paper. Can I walk around a bit?" Hearing the horned man's words, Director Pisces raised his eyelids and looked at him. Then, with interest, he said, "How do you want to walk? Tell me." "No big deal. I just want to sit closer to someone else." Glancing at the heavily injured Leon, the corners of the horned man's mouth twitched as he smiled maliciously. "When my talent approaches others, adding pressure, their talents also approach me, exerting extra pressure. Is this against the rules?" "No." After glancing at Leon, who had lost all semblance of humanity but was still relaxed in his seat, Director Pisces's white eyebrows twitched as he nodded. "Enduring the pressure from others' talents is part of this exam. You are free to sit next to whomever you like. I have no objections and would even encourage it. Moreover, I can share another piece of information. The ranking in this assessment will be based on how long you can persist. Only when there's one person left does the assessment end. That's all I have to say. You can proceed as you wish." Is the ranking based on the duration of endurance? After listening to the notification from the Pisces director and seeing his panel where materialism was as red as the sun, Leon fell silent for a moment, then gratefully glanced at the horned man. "Thanks for your question, buddy. This time I can finally confidently take first place." And upon receiving Leon's favorable glance, the corner of the horned man's mouth immediately stretched into a grim smile, accompanied by the threatening smile of the centipede monster ant supporting his body. "Don't blame me for being ruthless. If you want to blame anyone, blame the fact that the rewards for the top 3 in this exam are too good to give up." Leon. As the tall and robust horned man stood up, with the oppressive phantom of the centipede monster ant stepping toward him, a gentle voice came from Leon's right. "Swap places with me." Turning his exam paper over and placing it face down on the table, temporarily putting away his own talents, Amian, whose body was instantly eroded by dozens of talents and covered in cracks, quickly walked over to Leon. Upon reaching Leon first, Amian, covered in charcoal black burn marks, glanced at the horned man's paper, then tilted his head and coolly addressed the wary horned man. "Rudy from Taurus Branch, right? If you want to challenge yourself a bit, I can help you. There are really a lot of crazies in the Virgin Branch." Seeing Amian, whose endurance was as abnormal as Leon's, still maintaining a steady and unwavering voice despite the repeated erosion by dozens of talents, the horned man clicked his tongue in his heart and then stopped approaching. If it's about actual combat ability, he was confident to take on anyone in this exam. The problem was that in this first exam, only talent was the permitted means of attack. Regarding the strength of talents, the strongest were naturally the Angel from the Scorpio branch and the Death from the Aries branch, with white feathers and sharp gray mist each occupying half of the exam hall, leaving the surrounding cleaners crying out in agony. And next below the Angel and Death was this faceless woman. Those disgusting turbid yellow currents could even open up a large area amid the feathers and mist. Then it would be his turn and a few other senior level 2 cleaners. Although confident he's not weaker than her, even if pitting talents, he only slightly falls short. But if she really gave up on exam results to fight to the death, it wouldn't be worth it. All right, I'll give you face. After 1,000 thoughts flashed in his mind, the rough and staunch-looking horned man unhesitatingly chose to soften, stopping his advance. Instead, he glanced at Leon, who was blocked by Amian, and provocatively taunted with contempt. Heh, the one who claims to easily take first is just at this level, huh? You? What are you doing? Seeing Leon pick up Amian's exam paper and straightforwardly turn it over, instantly getting swallowed by the turbid yellow currents, the horned man's pupils shrank, exclaiming in surprise and uncertainty, "Aren't you afraid of being? Don't leave yet." After taking a few steps forward and grabbing the horned man's wrist, Leon's bizarre face, 2 parts fox fur, 3 parts white mask, and 5 layers of snake scales under various talents erosion, slowly blossomed into an unsettling shallow smile. "Since you're here, stay a while longer." Seeing Leon, whose talent had turned his limb into a black ant foot and most of his body soaking in the turbid yellow currents, the horned man's scalp went numb as if electrocuted, instinctively shaking off his hand. "Let go of me." Crack! As one of the top 5 in the exam hall, the horned man's strength was indeed astonishing, easily breaking free and even twisting Leon's wrist despite the dream realm suppression and lack of deliberate force. What made the observing cleaners have their scalps tingle was that after the twisted wrist healed, Leon acted nonchalantly, going after him and hugging the neck of the centipede monster ant behind the horned man. "Hiss! Don't shout!" Slapping the centipede monster ant with his free hand and stifling the remaining hiss, Leon turned looking at the dumbfounded Amian behind him, tentatively asking, "Señor Amin? Can your talent handle this? What do you mean by this? Could it be?" Glancing at the horned man behind Leon, with handprints imprinted on his neck, Amian paused, then pleasantly smiled. "Want to try? All right. Remember to call stop if uncomfortable." Amidst the shocked expressions of all cleaners in the exam hall, including the Pisces director, Leon dragged the centipede monster ant back to Amian's side, forcibly immersing its head in the densest part of the turbid yellow currents and violently scrubbed it up and down. "Wait! Wait a minute!" Just as Leon began scrubbing, the horned man, strangled by a strange force, bulged his eyes and screamed in panic, then shouted with a frightened face, "You! Glug! Damn! Glug glug! No no! I beg! Glug glug! Ah! Blub blub!" After Leon swiftly scrubbed the centipede monster ant thoroughly in the turbid yellow currents, the twitching horned man covered his mouth, rolled his eyes, and collapsed, falling with a thud under the table. As his head fell below the table, the centipede monster ant in Leon's hand slightly trembled, instantly losing its clear form and transforming into a crumpled exam paper. Name: Dream Interpretation Scroll, Rudy Taz. Materialized: Secret Technique, Temporary. Appearance: a flexible and smooth paper exam sheet, depicting a fierce-looking centipede monster ant forced to drink an unknown liquid and flipped over. Ability: Talent Materialization, Pisces Palace Secret Technique, Temporary Existence. Cost: borne by the practitioner of the Pisces Palace Secret Technique. File: after taking on the examination task, the current Pisces director of the Cleanup Bureau used his Abnormal Observation Secret Technique, with the Paradise Lost Shard activating a special dream realm as a carrier, temporarily creating this dream realm entity. This entity possesses the ability to analyze a user's talents and grant them materialization power, but only works within the dream realm and will disappear once the special dream realm ends. Evaluation: similar to materialism ability, though it lacks the effect of probing underlying information, it offers a more in-depth and thorough analysis and display of abnormalities. Contamination value: 60. Sizzle: through the thorough presentation of Pisces Palace Secret Technique and repeated intense contact, you have obtained massive intel on Rudy Taz, Taurus Branch Cleaner. The heterochromatic badge, Materialist Soul, Crimson. Activated. Having personally touched Rudy Taz's materialized talents, You now understand his capability direction, witnessed his ability limits, comprehended its operational rules. Rudy Taz holds no more secrets from you. Before Rudy Taz fully changes himself with 60 points of contamination value, you will have the ability to directly negate all abnormal effects manifested through various means based on this human individual. Exemption? After reading the reminder from Materialism, Leon couldn't help but be slightly stunned, and then instinctively looked up sharply, gazing at the Pisces director sitting on the podium. The basic effect of the Materialism badge is that the more you understand an anomaly, the more you can resist the corresponding anomaly, and the exceptional observation secret technique of Pisces Palace happens to directly help you gain a vast amount of information. If I learned the Pisces secret technique and acquired this unparalleled analytical ability, then doesn't that mean, Leon? After cleaning up the centipede giant ants, Leon stood silently next to him without any movement for quite a while, causing Amin to gently push him with a hint of concern and softly asked, "Are you okay?" Leon. Oh. After pulling his gaze away from the Pisces director who had closed his eyes, Leon apologetically smiled and said, "Sorry, I got a bit distracted. Thank you for coming over to help me just now, Senior Amin." "No worries, and actually I didn't help much, mostly you did well." Having glanced at the horned man lying beneath the table, infiltrated from inside out by his talents, Amin, seeing Leon still acting normal despite touching others' talents physically, couldn't help but say expectantly, "Leon, do you want to continue collaborating with me and finish this exam early?" "Finish the exam early?" Upon hearing the toilet lady's words, all the cleaners around couldn't help but change their expressions altogether. Regarding what cooperating really means, the horned man from Taurus Division has already demonstrated with his experience. These two from Virgin Branch are probably planning to replicate the previous action, wiping away everyone one by one. Pisces Lord. Understanding what Leon and Amin were planning, immediately a cleaner shouted, "This is an exam aimed at solo opposition. They teaming up should count as a violation, right? We can't let them mess around like this. That guy hasn't even shown his talent. If he holds out till the end like this, it's just too unfair." Quiet. Hearing the protest from the cleaners below, the Pisces director opened one eye again and said leisurely, "Current rules of this exam do not limit teaming up. As long as your will can endure, you can use their method as well. But if we get close, talents will affect each other. There's no way to team up like them." "That's not my concern." Casting an appreciative glance at the duo, the half-closed Pisces director said plainly, "What I can confirm now is that they didn't violate any rules, and don't think I am biased towards anyone. Didn't I also let the little bull be when he wanted to do mischief earlier? In essence, as long as it doesn't violate my established rules, you're free to do whatever you want." Seeing that Amin had gotten permission for free action from Pisces director, showing a satisfied smile, and then inviting Leon to start rinsing other candidates one by one, most cleaners couldn't hold back anymore. "Isn't there any freedom for us facing these two beasts? Freedom to be drenched by their toilet soup? Come on, guys. Do you really have to go this far?" Being dragged out from under the table by Leon, after grabbing the escaping talent, the cleaner with a foxtail couldn't help but complain bitterly. "I've already quit the exam, crawled under the table myself, and you're still going to drag me up for a force feeding? Well, sorry." Glancing at the Foxman's paper top, seeing the Libra division mark, Leon somewhat apologetically explained, "Mainly, you're worth 5 gold. I mean, your ability and talent are very outstanding, and our Virgin Branch wants to take first place this time, so we must try to suppress others' scores." "Sorry, huh? Where are you feeling sorry? It seems you are very unapologetic." As the Foxman fell down with a face full of sorrow, having rinsed nearly 300 candidates, Leon wiped his sweat and then worriedly checked on the pale-faced toilet lady beside him. "Senior Amin? Are you okay? If you ask about the status, then probably not okay." Upon hearing Leon's concerned inquiry, the toilet lady couldn't help but chuckle and then nodded vigorously. "Still okay. Keep going." Though the cleaners who came for the assessment this time were all average in strength and talent, even if they are ordinary after clashing talent with 300 people, the will is somewhat unsupportable. Though the will is already at its limit, there are still other means to use as fuel to continue supporting. If Leon can knock everyone down and directly secure first place for Virgin Branch, even if it means resting for a month back home, it'd be worth it. All right then. Feeling the determination from Senior Amin's eyes, Leon asked no more but followed the weary-looking toilet lady and continued his irrigation journey. Soon, amidst a series of curses and jeers, most of the candidates in the entire exam hall had crawled under the tables, only leaving two figures black and white, still calmly sitting in their original seats. All right, it looks like I can only help you up to here. Glancing at those two backs, having traded talents over 400 times, with her will already pushed to the limit, Amin lay on 3 lined chairs in Leon's support, and then promised with a smile. Good luck. If you get first in this challenge too, I'll gift you 10 bottles of my treasured potion when back to the branch. Thanks for the encouragement, but spare me the potion. In Leon's peculiar expression, the exhausted Amin laid down peacefully, taking 4th place. Meanwhile, seeing all cleaners had withdrawn except for the top 3, the cross-legged Pisces director opened his eyes slightly, shaking the haggard body. Buzz! With a strange buzzing sound, the expansive exam hall suddenly shrank. All fallen cleaners were expelled, leaving only the front row of seats. With Six-Winged Angel on the left and Death veiled in gray fog on the right, bruised Leon in the middle, they sat shoulder to shoulder, Leon's left leg even brushing against the soft feathers on Angel's wings. Is this man Leon? The angel with 6 wings sensed the touch and couldn't help but turn her head to scrutinize Leon. After all 400-plus cleaners had left the stage, the peculiar abilities they manifested disappeared, and Leon's body, continuously eroded by strange abilities, finally returned to its original appearance. Although seated between the 2 strongest abilities, resulted in constant burning by feathers and cuts from sharp currents hidden in gray mist, his face was now clearly visible. The opponent repeatedly cautioned about by the director felt quite ordinary. Angel examined Leon's features intensely, yet no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't see any distinctive auras of a strong individual emanating from Leon's face. This supposed formidable opponent, who had caused their director significant psychological turmoil and tried to prevent her from participating in the exam, seemed like an ordinary young man. Serious, meticulous, gentle, and polite, lacking memorable characteristics. More importantly, he didn't seem to display any abilities. Glancing behind at the radiant wings of the unblemished heaven, and then at the gray desolation of the death god's lifeless wasteland, Abigail shook her head slightly at Leon's empty background. Behind him, there existed no invisible, concealed abilities. There truly was nothing manifested. His persistence in the first exam was purely due to his extremely strong will holding on. I'll be the one who wins in the end. Question mark. The angel with 6 wings didn't hide her actions, so Leon naturally noticed her observation and instinctively glanced at the exam paper on her desk. Level 1 Scorpio Branch, Abigail, the purifier who sanctified the sheep's whip? Although cleaners from the Scorpio branch were worth 5 gold wheels, upon remembering what the name represented, Leon's demeanor warmed considerably, even moving slightly closer to her position. Senior Abigail, blocking a drifting feather with his hand, Leon smiled warmly and initiated conversation with keen interest. While executing an investigation task with Senior Alger, I heard some things about you. I originally planned to visit the Kingdom of Orlison when I had time, but unexpectedly, we met right here during the exam. What a coincidence. Ah! A bit dazed by Leon's enthusiastic expression, Abigail's rosy lips parted in surprise, but she ultimately said nothing, just uttered a confused ah. Though her attitude seemed lukewarm and distant, Leon, determined to gather the 7 sheep miscellanies, wouldn't mind it. Smiling nonchalantly, he continued chatting proactively. Because of the Scorpio director's repeated warnings before departing, Abigail regarded Leon as a rival she'd never met. Even feeling competitive, wanting to defeat him to prove herself. However, as the saying goes, one doesn't hit a smiling face. Dealing with Leon's amicable interaction, Abigail, considering herself somewhat polite, couldn't just lash out. She awkwardly and indifferently responded. Yet, as the two chatted more, the atmosphere in the exam hall became rather peculiar. The Pisces director on the podium sat quietly with eyes closed, adopting a do-whatever-you-like, and I'll announce results once the exam ends attitude, while two of the remaining test candidates oddly began chatting, seeming rather absorbed. So, am I being marginalized? Through the death-scented gray mist surrounding her, observing Leon and Abigail for a while, feeling overwhelmed by the odd vibe, the death god couldn't help but remind, can you two be mindful? This is a promotion exam. Receiving the death god's reminder, Leon paused mid-conversation with Abigail, then turned back apologetically with a slight nod. Sorry for disturbing you, we'll be quieter. Is the problem the volume of your conversation? After listening to the whispering duo's negotiation and their shift in direction, resuming their low-toned chat further away, the increasingly isolated death god grew more restless. This is the largest and most attended promotion exam in over 100 years, personally supervised by one of the 12 directors. Could you take it a bit more seriously? Pisces, having been inexplicably subjected to silent treatment, the death god couldn't help but inquire, how much longer will this first exam last? Should be a while. Glimpsing at Leon's position, the Pisces director replied leisurely, I mentioned before that this exam's rankings depend on how long you can endure. The three of you have special circumstances. The kid from the Virgo branch seems impervious to pain, while your abilities nearly equalize, so it'll likely be a long time until the final rankings are determined. Then there's no need, perhaps due to discomfort from being excluded or lack of interest in the promotion exam rankings. The death god suddenly lowered her exam paper decisively. I'll take third place. Please send me out. Whoa, why did this guy suddenly stop taking the exam? Unaware of the issue being herself, watching the death god unexpectedly withdraw from the exam, Leon furrowed his brows in surprise, then turned to the stiff-faced angel, gently suggesting, Senior Abigail, since she's already left, shall we? Are you planning to leave too? Hearing Leon's opener, Abigail's eyes brightened. Though Leon showed interest in befriending her, their lack of common topics resulted in awkward chats, making the experience quite taxing. Ending earlier would be, why don't we chat a bit more? I have an abnormal object that once belonged to a major demon. It's fascinated by your purification ability. How about next time for sure? Noticing Leon's unaffected demeanor despite her ability's erosion, Abigail, who had been chatting for quite a while, immediately mastered the art of true word, sprang up and addressed the Pisces director. Second place for me? Please send me out. Isn't it? I didn't say anything, right? After Senior Abigail exited at the speed of light, Leon vaguely realized that these two might have left because of his chattering. Speechless, he closed his mouth and turned his gaze to Director Pisces on the podium. You're first. The exam is over. After glancing at Leon, who looked a bit depressed, Director Pisces unhesitatingly announced the result, then immediately shattered the dream realm, forcibly ejecting Leon, who still wanted to say something. This kid is somewhat psychologically twisted. Anyone who has reached the level of a level 1 cleaner in various branches couldn't possibly have a weak mind. Naturally, they wouldn't voluntarily exit due to simple exclusion or being forcibly chatted. What truly made the Purifier and Slaughterer surrender wasn't the meaningless awkward chatter, but Leon's bizarre calmness under his own ability's frantic crushing. With only 3 left, and the examination room shrunk to a single row, the concentration of the Purifier and Slaughterer's talents was more than 100 times higher, and their corrosive power improved by more than 1 level. Yet, sitting between them, Leon, devoid of any protective abilities, still seemed unaware, unaffected by either the high-pitched holy chants purifying souls in the unblemished heaven or the deathly silent storm of extermination blowing over desolate wastelands. It's known that the manifested abilities and the person are completely unified. The clash of abilities equals using everything of oneself to intimately grind and tear at another's everything until one is completely annihilated. However, facing the attack onto which they bet everything, as the tortured victim, that boy not only didn't show any hint of pain, but even approached with full of cracks and scorch marks, blood all over, cheerfully chatting about the recent weather. This extremely odd sense of imbalance not only leaves one feeling disappointed, as if a full-force punch hit the air, but also implies that one's everything, representing their existence, was directly negated by the other. This most naked and thorough indifference is even more chilling than deep-seated hatred and hostility. Honestly, even if the two of them were replaced by me, I probably wouldn't want to stay with this kind of person either. Seeing the two, who, even after leaving the examination room, still occasionally glanced towards Leon with apprehensive faces, Director Pisces couldn't help shaking his head and clapped his hands firmly. The first stage assessment is over. Now begins the second stage assessment. With Director Pisces clapping, the just shattered dream realm instantly reformed, once again swallowing everyone. But this time appearing before the cleaners was no longer desks and test papers, but a vast and open space. The content of the second assessment is a comprehensive test of your solo combat abilities. Raising his skinny arm and waving it, a number appeared on the forehead of each cleaner. Director Pisces announced loudly, "These numbers represent your ranking in the last stage." There were 419 participants in the last assessment, so defeating number 1 earns 419 points, defeating number 2 earns 418 points, and so on, with defeating the last one only earning 1 point. Everyone can only be defeated once. Next, you are to pick your opponents in turn, enter the arena I created for you, and fight each other. The challenger can choose their opponent, while the chosen can designate the arena, requesting me to modify the size and type of venue to select an environment that favors showcasing their abilities. Are the first picker choosing the opponent and the chosen picking the environment? After hearing Director Pisces, among the 419 cleaners, those with quicker minds quickly understood the meaning of this assessment. Apart from a simple combat prowess test, the second stage assessment also includes a test of combat wisdom and observational skills, as well as some evaluations of intelligence gathering and situation inference. During the first stage assessment, everyone was in the same examination room, and everyone's abilities and inclinations had been displayed before everyone. If in the last assessment, besides fully manifesting one's abilities, one carefully observed other cleaners, it wouldn't be hard to infer the types and strengths of their abilities and make targeted arrangements. For example, if selected by that angel, you could entirely designate the arena as an abyss, where in an environment filled with chaos and malevolence, her performance would certainly be greatly affected. If the arena simulated by Director Pisces could closely resemble a real abyss environment, then the angel's ability strength might even be directly halved. Realizing how to use the rules, among the 419 cleaners, those ranked in the middle or even lower couldn't help but show eager expressions. Before reaching a level that surpasses humans and possesses true God-level status, most abnormal objects' abilities cannot be exempted. A high Leon value can only partly weaken the effects. With a limited number of participants, the total score is also limited. The first cleaners to pick opponents are unlikely to choose ones too inferior to themselves for points, but with sufficient intelligence collected in advance and targeted venue selections, they stand a chance to overcome stronger opponents. Even the top few aren't out of the question. Am I being regarded as an easy target? Feeling the intense, eager gazes coming from behind toward him, Leon turned back and glanced speechlessly. Sure enough, due to not showcasing many abilities in the last round, mostly relying on endurance to hold on till the end, the majority of the participating cleaners were already eyeing him, already viewing him as a walking 419 points. Meanwhile, seeing the focus of the cleaners' gazes, Director Pisces couldn't help but shake his head slightly. This batch of cleaners' overall quality is still not quite there. Neither their eyes nor brains are up to par. Well, it doesn't matter. Choosing the opponent is itself part of the assessment. People with such poor discerning skills couldn't earn high scores anyway. Deciding not to give any hints, Director Pisces continued to speak. The rules for the second stage assessment are basically these. The order for choosing opponents will follow the order from the last assessment. Number 1. Who do you choose as your opponent? Is it my turn first? Hearing Director Pisces' reminder, Leon turned back, smiled at Senior Amian standing beside him, then spoke. Number 4. Number 4. That cleaner from the Virgin Branch? Hearing Leon's choice and seeing Amian with a weary look, barely able to stand, most cleaners' faces showed an expression of understanding. Number 4, during the first assessment, competed against over 400 cleaners, consuming a significant amount of their energy. Worth 416 points, they were nearly able to resign from the assessment, and this guaranteed high score had to be taken first. Though it seems a bit disgraceful targeting a fellow cleaner from the same branch, if he doesn't take the points, numbers 2 and 3 would still do so, therefore choosing number 4 is also excluding number 4. Giving Senior Amian a reassuring glance, amidst the bewildered gazes of all the cleaners, Leon shyly spoke. Let the remaining 417 come at me together. Plop! A large ink blot suddenly appeared on the beast-hide notebook full of messy handwriting, smudging the score behind Ryan's name. Facing Ryan's insane demand of 1 against 417, the Pisces director, who had been very calm from the start of the examination, showing almost no expression, held the pen silently for a while, and finally couldn't help but ask, Are you sure? I'm sure. For the first time, in front of hundreds of people, Ryan, who was not very skilled in this kind of deliberate wall collision, was a bit embarrassed at first and nodded, then seriously repeated, I want to choose the remaining 417 people to be my opponents. Before the first assessment, at most I would use the stronger abnormal object in my hand to always choose the opponent with the highest score and be satisfied with the highest total score. After all, no matter how strong you are, you can't avoid encountering an uncontrollable abnormal object. But after passing the first assessment and watching all the talents of reference cleaners, hitting 1 or hitting 417 made no difference to me. So naturally, I wanted to flaunt it hard and help the bureau chief and the bureau gain a big face. A mere level 3 cleaner, is he really that arrogant? Even though Ryan showed no apparent talent and only took first place through endurance, most cleaners felt some discontent, with a faint urge to choose him as their challenge target. However, before they could issue the challenge, this seemingly shaky first place, who seemed to have gone mad, directly proposed to take on everyone at once? Does this mean that everyone in this assessment, even if tied together, wouldn't be worth his notice? Lord Pisces, completely enraged by such an arrogant challenge, the Taurus man, who had been feuding with Ryan since before the assessment and had been forced into deep trouble, stepped forward with blazing eyes and shouted loudly, Please give me a chance to have a fair contest with him. If I win, it doesn't count, but if I lose, I'll give him all my points. Is this the guy from that Taurus branch? After seeing the noisy number on his forehead yelled by the Taurus man, the Pisces director frowned involuntarily, covering his ear and scolded discontentedly. Why are you shouting so loudly? You were the first to drop last round, and even if you give him everything, it's only worth 1 point. In a moment of anger, forgetting his miserable 1-point value, the enthusiastic look on the Taurus man's face waned, as he faltered. Although his challenge failed, it set an example for other indignant cleaners, who immediately clamored to express that if they lost, they'd give all their points to Ryan, and if they won, they wouldn't take a single point. Even Abigail, who had a good chat with Ryan in the previous assessment, stood out with a slightly annoyed face, extending her hand toward Ryan and inviting the fight. Lord Ryan, Director Edward has been full of praise for you since returning from the Kralik Kingdom. Please, in his honor, give me a fair chance to duel with you. Never mind whether your director has any face with me. He's full of praise for me? Are you sure? Watching Abigail compulsively lie to get a fight, Ryan couldn't help but twitch his lips, then turned to the Pisces director and urged, Lord Pisces, I've chosen my opponents. You can arrange the assessment. Let me think for a moment. Facing Ryan's urging, the Pisces director couldn't help but wave his hand, pinching his eyebrows hard and saying, The assessment doesn't prohibit one versus many, and personally, I'm interested to see you try this, but it goes against the original objective of the second assessment. If you're allowed to take on 417 at once, you'd end up with over 80,000 points. No, how many points you get isn't important anymore. If we let you do this, the result of the second assessment would see you in first place, your branches Amiens in second, and the remaining 417 tied for third. How am I supposed to report this to the Bureau? Moreover, this assessment doesn't just test fighting ability. It also examines everyone's information gathering, intelligence analysis abilities, choice of opponents, combat skills using the terrain, adaptability to unfavorable conditions, etc. How would I score them if you mess things up like this? Then, should I fight a bit slower? Hearing this, Ryan thought for a bit, then tentatively proposed. I can hold off on attacking those who haven't made a move, waiting for them to showcase their abilities before sending them off, to give you time to evaluate their combat levels. Would that work for you? Seriously, isn't that a bit much? Not only do you want to take on 400, but you're also thinking about holding back? Letting us perform before moving? How can you be so arrogant? Facing Ryan's attitudes that couldn't be deemed anything but dismissive, even the most patient person couldn't hold it in anymore. The Grim Reaper, who hadn't said a word from the start, stepped out coldly and requested loudly, "Lord Pisces, I accept his challenge. If others disagree, then please arrange for me to go first against him. No matter the situation, shall we just fight first?" After hearing the Grim Reaper, stood Abigail, deliberated for a moment, then also requested, "Lord Pisces, I also accept Mr. Ryan's challenge. Please arrange for me to be on stage as well." The remaining cleaners, upon realizing, also stood up one after another, glaring angrily at Ryan, and accepted the challenge one after the other. "I also accept his challenge. Count me in. Please let me go on stage as well." "Me too." Judging by the looks, this time it seemed there's no way to refuse. Looking at the incited crowd of cleaners around him, the Pisces director couldn't help but sigh, shaking his head slightly, and clapped his hands lightly. Clap! With a crisp echo, the already vast dream realm instantly expanded again, encompassing everyone into it. The Pisces director, who was originally in the center of the field, disappeared, replaced by a stunned-looking Ryan. Excluding Amiens, the 417 were evenly spread on the dream realm's edge, forming a massive circle, enclosing Ryan right at the center from hundreds of meters away. Alas! Sighing faintly, the Pisces director, who moved to the edge of the dream realm, raised his voice and announced in a headache, "The second round of assessment begins. The first real combat assessment is of Virgin Branch Level 3 Cleaner Leon Lane against..." "Never mind, I won't continue listing. Just fight however you like." Boom! In this situation, no one paid attention to the Pisces director's announcement anymore. As soon as the combat dream realm expanded, nearly half of the cleaners charged toward the arrogant figure in the center of the field. Leon Lane, accompanied by an angry shout, a slender figure instantly elongated, crossing more than 700 meters in the blink of an eye to reach Leon. The figure, faster than its voice, known as Silver Shadow, instantly shifted from extreme motion to complete stillness. It extended its right hand, covered in silver scale armor, reaching toward Leon's throat, scolding angrily, "You are nothing but..." "Hello, goodbye." Nodding toward the cleaner whose branch was unknown, with a gentle smile, Leon ignored the hand reaching for his throat and retaliated with a simple slash. "Ha, fool!" Seeing Leon's straightforward counterattack, Silver Shadow let out a contemptuous smile, trusting its astonishing speed. It dodged to the side without hesitation, exposing its waist right to the edge of the silver dagger of cutting. What's happening? How did he know I was going to dodge this way? Because I heard it. Even without hearing your thoughts, knowing in advance that you were going to dodge right, a body full of mirrors like yours is just bound to be a sitting duck. In the extreme astonishment of Silver Shadow's gaze, Leon touched the pearly, heart-stealing stud on his ear, then swung his silver dagger, slicing him into dozens of living mirror shards, casually tossing them around. The immunity effect granted by materialism was limited to those abnormal objects targeted at me. Silver Shadow's type of self-enhancement doesn't fall under this category. But with the director's heart-stealing stud, I can hear part of an attacker's thoughts whenever faced with attacks. Combined with the elusive attack angles of Mirror Dog and the all-cutting nature of Silver Dagger of cutting, facing these opponents whose contamination values average just 20 to 30 points is simply a standard practice for a massacre spree. Isn't this a bit too fast? Seeing Silver Shadow being cut into fragments within a 2-second opening of the examination, scattered over a 20-square-meter area, the advancing cleaners faltered, looking toward Leon in shock and uncertainty. As senior second-level cleaners from the Ares branch, many cleaners present were aware of Silver Shadow's strength. Yet, this formidable fighter, ahead even among seconds, didn't even get to say a word before being slaughtered? Indeed, the director didn't lie to me after all. While Leon's swift kill shocked the cleaners into slowing their approach, a distant Abigail couldn't help but take a deep breath, a glimmer of intrigue in her pale golden eyes. If we are to discuss the hardest abnormal objects to deal with, the Speedster is surely among the top, ranking higher even than Soul Curse and Undying Body. Single combat-wise, due to its annoying super speed, Ashima, the slippery silver of the Ares branch, is definitely much stronger than a regular level 1 cleaner. Even against her, I would have to slowly grind using area damage, definitely not achieving such an effortless victory. Splendid. Only a strong opponent like this is worth competing against. However, unlike Abigail, whose spirits were stirred, and fighting instinct ignited, the cleaners grew gradually calmer upon witnessing Leon's display of combat skill in instantly killing the slippery silver. Though angered by Leon's attitude, given the high mortality rate in the cleanup bureau, those who tend to lose their heads recklessly and go crazy don't last 3 to 5 missions, certainly not eligible for promotion examinations. We can't act recklessly. Even if it's 400 against 1, intelligence and tactics must still be observed. Having determined that Leon was no simple decorated pillow, cleaners with long-range attack capabilities paused, immediately drawing out their abnormal objects. A rotten stringless bow, a cursed doll with a human face, a withered green fish with raised scales, a massive single eye on the chest and stomach, a piece of saint's skin tattooed with a woman, all kinds of abnormal objects, bizarre in both shape and effect, aimed at Leon, their tangible and intangible uncanny powers surging densely toward the center of the field. There was even one cleaner, resembling a little devil with 2 horns on his forehead, who took out a large teapot from his bosom, opening the lid and yelling at Leon. "Leon Lane, if I call your name, will you answer?" "Buddy, is your teapot a makeshift gourd?" Swinging a blade in exasperation, Leon cut down the teapot guy playing Koss from over 200 meters away. Eyes narrowed and body glowing from being hit by over 60 abnormal objects. He struck back, one slash after another, following the sources of those abnormal objects. The cleaners participating in the examination were not entirely without defensive abilities. However, facing Silver Dagger of Cutting, which even the 3-headed canine deity couldn't endure, these defenses with insufficient standing really couldn't even hold up for a moment. In expressions filled with horror and desperation, around Leon, who didn't move a step, people lay in disarray, limbs scattered all around as he stood, slashing through the air. More bone-chilling, among the exquisite severed limbs, some not precisely cut, retained complete vocal organs. These shattered corpses, lucky or unlucky, seemed in denial of their own deaths, writhing and groaning desperately on the ground, the scene resembling a vivid, hellish picture scroll. Is this Olivia's 32 guards? Watching Leon stand there, not dodging any of the abnormal objects but taking them head-on, the Pisces director outside the dream realm couldn't help but flash a doubtful look in his eyes, but soon shook his head, dismissing his guess. Though Olivia can be quite outrageous, handing over the 32 guards to a subordinate to cheat in the exam isn't something she'd do, at least not while she's sober. Moreover, the 32 guards merely increases defenses against abnormal objects. It requires Olivia's nearly 70 Leon value to achieve almost direct immunity. Yet, Leon's displayed abilities seem even more absurd than the 32 guards. After staring at Leon, who began a massacre in the dream realm for a long while without understanding how he did it, the Pisces director, genuinely curious, couldn't resist putting away the animal skin scroll. Taking out a pair of bifocals from his bosom, he squinted close to the chaotic dream realm, focusing intently. This ability, it doesn't feel like a defensive-type abnormal object. If it truly is an abnormal object, being battered repeatedly by several hundred anomalous objects would consume enough to drain a true god dry. So it must be some kind of time-limited special state, maintainable as long as it doesn't surpass thresholds or limits. But if it were such a special state, generally it involves rules, nearly impossible for individuals below a true god to master, and the specified rules are quite targeted, so how could they possibly block several hundred different abnormal objects simultaneously? This really is peculiar, so peculiar. Leon Lane. He's full of secrets. Is he interesting? Yes, indeed interesting. Reflexively responding, being entirely absorbed by Leon. The Pisces director suddenly realized something was off, and without even turning, his body dispersed into a myriad of resplendent, glowing bubbles. Unfortunately, although the Pisces director realized it, he was ultimately still half a step too slow. A short blade similar in design to the silver dagger of cutting, yet colored of rich gold, lunged forward like a venomous snake, slicing through myriad beautiful dream realms in an instant and cruelly penetrating a gray, decayed old heart. As if time were reversing, at the moment the red gold dagger pierced the heart, the scattered bubbles in the sky instantly reassembled, condensing the hunched figure of the Pisces director. What a careless mistake. After glancing at the blade protruding from his chest, the Pisces director closed his eyes slightly and then, without futile struggle, sat cross-legged slowly under the support of a strong hand. Your courage is as great as ever. More or less. With a gentle smile, the Aquarius director, looking only in his 30s, slightly rotated his wrist gripping the dagger, and then warmly said to the Pisces director, who was trembling all over, "Don't bother doing anything unnecessary. Since I dared to come directly, there's no way I'd let you get the news out." That's true. Hearing this, the Pisces director nodded, recalled the bubble wrapping his tongue, and then calmly asked, "So why did you risk so much to sneak into the dream realm? It's not just to stab me out of anger, is it? I wouldn't be that bored." The Aquarius director shook his head, smiling, and said, "Taurus is about to ascend to the palace. If I don't deal with you first, even if I succeed in killing Taurus, I still won't be able to ascend. As long as you can open Bubble Shadow Cove in time, everything I've done will turn into bubbles." Cough, cough, cough. "So, what's the point of stabbing me?" After coughing painfully several times with his hand covering his mouth, the Pisces director wiped the bloodstains on his palm onto his robe, then said expressionlessly, "Even though I was careless and gave you an opening, once you pull the knife out, the fact that you stabbed me will immediately turn into bubbles, and even the torn clothes will be as good as new. You, cough, cough, cough. You still can't do anything. Your mouth is still so stubborn." "It's not stubbornness, but the truth." After another fit of intense coughing, the Pisces director coldly said, "The truth now is that with the Aquarius Astropalace temporarily sealed off, you no longer have the ability to kill me. If I hadn't been distracted, you wouldn't have even had the chance to ambush me." Indeed. Not arguing this point with the Pisces director, the Aquarius director maintained the backstab posture, sat down behind the Pisces director, and pointed at Leon, who was wreaking havoc in the dream realm, asking with a smile, "See the knife in his hand? I gave it to him, and when he was swallowed by the Deathhound guard and nearly digested, I was the one who saved him." "So what?" the Pisces director coldly said. "You don't mean to tell me that this Leon, who exposed your plans in public and nearly killed you twice, is actually your man, do you? Where's your imagination going?" The Aquarius director waved dismissively and said, "How could he be my man? He belongs to no one." "What do you mean?" "Literal meaning." While vigorously gouging the Pisces director's heart, The Aquarius director explained with a smile. Although this person is a cleaner, he doesn't necessarily side with the cleanup bureau. He has some very stubborn beliefs that accept almost no compromise, and he will only ever do what he wants to do. He chose to be a cleaner and help you deal with me simply because his beliefs partially align with yours. But if, on a particular matter, my choice aligns more closely with his, he will turn to me without hesitation. Ha! With disdain, the Pisces director sneered and commented disdainfully. Poor provocation. You don't think that after hearing your argument, I would start to fear him or even take action against him, do you? There are plenty who joined the cleanup bureau for selfish reasons, seeing the cleaner identity merely as a means to gain power. If we fretted over each one, more than half of the cleaners should be driven away. Well, you do have a point. After hearing the Pisces director's rebuttal, the Aquarius director thoughtfully nodded his head. Indeed, within our cleanup bureau, many do not take the protecting humanity tenet seriously. Leon, though peculiar when it comes to motives and desired actions, may not be worse than those people. Enough nonsense. Seemingly fed up with the endless riddles, the Pisces director, his chest soaked with blood, first coughed violently twice and then said impatiently, "My bubble shadow cove has never been closed. In your current state, there's no way you can kill me. Even if you dare to move a step away from me, I can immediately break free and you can't do anything to me." The same goes for these cleaners attending the promotion exam. They are here only in consciousness, and they are all inside the fragments of Paradise Lost. Once I break free, I can immediately send their consciousness back. If I wasn't confident in dealing with your attack, this promotion exam would have been postponed long ago. Currently, you can't touch me, and you can't touch any of these cleaners either. Rest assured, though I was nearly killed by the bureau, I'm not so resentful as to want to destroy the cleanup bureau. It's just that, after seeing Leon cut down over 300 people, and with no one daring to advance for quite some time, the Aquarius director couldn't help but shake his head. Isn't the quality of this batch of cleaners a bit too poor? Upon hearing the words of the Aquarius director, the Pisces director's expression momentarily stiffened slightly, while the Aquarius director seemed unaware and continued to speak. Before I poked you, I also took a look at their performance. Don't even mention comparing them to our batch. This batch of cleaners is probably even worse than the one from 10 years ago, which was called the worst in 300 years. Among the cleaners who came to participate in the promotion assessment this time, apart from that Leon, those with the qualifications to challenge the Zodiac Star Palace didn't even add up to 5. If I remember correctly, for a cleaner with this kind of qualification, there should be about 30 to 40 people to have one successfully challenge the Zodiac Star Palace, right? Seemingly very worried for the future of the cleanup bureau, seeing the last few brave challengers being cut down and scattered all over the place, with no one daring to step forward anymore, the Aquarius director sighed helplessly and said, "If cleaners coming for assessment in the future are all at this ratio, then the situation would be quite severe. If, after the current 12 directors of the Yellow Road die of old age, and the new Yellow Road directors who come up to take their places, even with the backing of the Zodiac Star Palaces, have difficulty reaching the level of pillar gods, and if a large number of director seats also become vacant, the cleanup bureau will probably have no successors. So you came here just to stab me in the heart? And even stabbing with a knife wasn't enough. You have to stab me verbally again? Shut up, you." Turning his head in irritation, glaring angrily at the Aquarius director who was speaking sarcastically, the Pisces director shouted angrily with a face full of anger, "These things have nothing to do with you. You traitor who joined the Slaughter King Association." "I wouldn't call it joining the Slaughter King Association. I just cooperated with them for certain purposes, that's all." Glancing at the Pisces director, who was angered by his words, the Aquarius director shook his head and said, "Although I am not of one heart with the Slaughter King Association, I actually think that what they are preparing to do might, contrariwise, be a good thing for the Cleanup Bureau and even for all humankind. Now the Cleanup Bureau has been too well protected by the Watcher's Palace, seldom facing any crisis, making the level of the cleaners get worse and worse each batch. If this continues, it will eventually fall to a level where even the Watcher's Palace can't protect them. From this perspective, I think it might be better to let the Slaughter King Association act more, kill all the royal family members of 7 or 8 kingdoms, and also give the future cleaners more chances for training. Nonsense. The Pisces director couldn't help but rebuke. Do you even know what you are saying? It took the contributions of numerous predecessors over countless generations to nurture the Watcher's Palace to its current scale, and you want to destroy it all with a single sentence? You simply... Hey! Don't get excited. With a turn of his wrist, interrupting the Pisces director's words, the Aquarius director said leisurely, I actually meant nothing else. I was just unable to leave because of the activation of an abnormal object and chatted with you, my old friend, out of that occurrence. This kind of casual chat need not be taken seriously. After the timing and effect of the abnormal object are set, I will continue to return to plan my scheme, and you can continue doing what you want to do. We used to be friends, after all. There's no need to quarrel over this kind of thing. Abnormal object activation, timing and effect? Upon capturing the keywords in the Aquarius director's words, the heart of the Pisces director trembled slightly, then immediately retorted. It's useless, as long as Bubble Shadow Cove is still around, no matter what you do to me, as long as I slightly stir a thought. Anything that happens during this time would be as if it never happened, and without a star palace you absolutely cannot destroy my Bubble Shadow Cove. Indeed, I cannot. The Aquarius director nodded at the words, then smiled and said, Your Bubble Shadow Cove is indeed a good thing. As long as the anchors for restoration are recorded in advance, almost any reality you dislike can be erased, forcibly guiding affairs toward a direction favorable to you. But this all has a premise in the end. You have to be yourself and must actively generate the thought of using Bubble Shadow Cove. I have to be myself. With a sudden shudder in the Pisces director's expression, the Aquarius director rotated his wrist again, forcibly twisting once in a clockwise direction. It seems you've already thought of it. The Aquarius director smiled and said, Although your Bubble Shadow Cove is essentially impregnable, capable of triggering automatically even in an unconscious state, your soul, however, has a huge flaw. Due to past events, your soul was divided into 4, continually shifting among the 4 forms of male, female, elderly, and young over time. Behind this most powerful old soul in line is Mimi, who represents youth. And based on my understanding of Mimi, innocent and naive as she is, let alone knowing how to manipulate Bubble Shadow Cove, she probably hasn't even figured out how many abnormal objects you truly possess. Has she? So, your true purpose is to bring Mimi's soul out early to replace me. And the blade thrust into my heart has been secretly slicing my time. Gazing at the short blade sticking out of his chest, rotating slowly in a clockwise direction, the Pisces director, who vaguely guessed the truth, hurriedly mobilized his secret technique to barely discern it and indeed found special imprints belonging to a time-based abnormal object. Roughly, every rotation of the Aquarius director's wrist caused the time his soul experienced to suddenly advance a large chunk unconsciously, and after being rotated so many times by him, the appearance time of himself seemed to be really nearing its limit. No, I must not let Mimi come out now. Feeling the naive soul within his body gradually reviving and starting to contend for control, the Pisces director couldn't help clenching his teeth, starting to struggle desperately. Even though Mimi can also passively trigger Bubble Shadow Cove and wouldn't be killed by the Aquarius director, without his protection, those cleaners participating in the assessment would fall into the Aquarius director's hands. Moreover, what's even more critical is that the time for the director of Taurus to ascend the palace has already been set and cannot be further altered. If Mimi is brought out at this juncture, leading to the loss of his Bubble Shadow Cove's protection, then, don't move. Your soul will shatter. Pressing a hand on the shoulder of the Pisces director, holding down his heavily trembling body, the Aquarius director gently advised, Rest assured, I won't do anything to these cleaners. This time, my target is only you. Out of our past camaraderie, I didn't even plan to harm you. I only need to have Mimi, who can't control Bubble Shadow Cove, come out early to replace you and prevent you from using Bubble Shadow Cove to cause me trouble, and then my goal will be achieved. As for this batch of not-so-quality cleaners, their fate will depend on what you decide to do. Amid the Pisces director's glare, the Aquarius director smilingly warned, I don't like reckless killing. As long as you don't act rashly, I naturally won't lay a hand on them. But if you insist on risking your soul shattering to forcibly prevent Mimi from coming out, then I'm forced to apologize. If you are still unwilling, then I can help you calculate the odds. Seeing the Pisces director's body trembling continuously, the Aquarius director accelerated the speed of the heart carving while leaning over and whispered, "The probability that you can perfectly suppress Mimi is at most only 1/4, and the remaining 3/4 is the possibility that your soul fractures due to conflict, making Bubble Shadow Cove imperfect, and then you, along with these over 400 cleaners, being eradicated by me. But if you choose to follow my arrangements, obediently allowing Mimi to come out from your soul, although the director of Taurus will lose Bubble Shadow Cove as shelter, you and the future of this cleanup bureau can all survive. Come, make your choice. Why did I insist on attending this examination?" Watching from a distance, Abigail, who was fleeing everywhere on the scythe of death, yet was still slashed and chopped into 6 or 7 pieces by Leon, sat on the ground with a pale face and fell into deep thought. To be honest, is it a bit of jealousy? Jealousy of why those who participated in the last investigation mission of the Kralik Kingdom are praising this Leon so irrationally. Even if his talent is excellent, he is merely a rookie cleaner with only 3 months of experience and barely any missions under his belt. While my time with the Cleanup Bureau is only a few years, before joining the Scorpio branch, I served 2 decades in the Immaculate Cult as a doll, a living vessel for the descent of the Holy Spirit, battling against the will of the Immaculate Holy Spirit for 20 whole years and finally emerging victorious. After enduring those 2 decades of torture, I believe that my aptitude and will are not inferior to anyone's. Yet, facing an opponent I haven't even competed with, a judgment is made that I have no chance of winning. How can I accept that? But, surveying the now empty examination grounds, seeing the scattered and struggling flesh piles on the field, Abigail leaned against a headless dragon's corpse, holding 6 severed wings, and closed her eyes in an overwhelming daze. Is the gap too vast? In this 1-417 battle, the 400-plus cleaners on the challenging side used at least 1,000 offensive abnormal objects, but none could land a hit, all negated without any injury by the opponent. The entire battle process was despairingly monotonous. For rookies who had recently joined like me or seasoned cleaners at an elite level, there was no distinction in his hands. It was all just a single slice. Before you attack him, you won't be attacked, but after you strike at him, you'll be cut down with a single counterattack. If you try to resist further, you'll be sliced into pieces. This is not a matter of holding back or not. He knew from the start that we were not in the same realm as him. He plainly didn't regard us at all. What's more despair-inducing is that his judgment seems correct. Even with over 400 of us, we weren't able to launch any attack that could threaten him. It seems one should heed advice and not be too stubborn. Phew, this is the last one. In the screeches of a female cleaner from the Libra division, after slicing her evenly into 2 halves, Leon saw no one else standing except himself in the examination field and nodded in satisfaction. Lord Pisces. Wiping the sweat from his brow, Leon shouted loudly outside the dream realm. I've defeated all opponents and can proceed to the next examination. Lord Pisces. ? Why is there no response? Could something have happened? After calling several times with no reply, Leon instinctively felt uneasy, becoming vigilant. He quickly walked to the edge of the Dream Realm examination field and tested cutting with the silver dagger of cutting. Not a single movement. This is troublesome. Touching the invisible boundary of the Dream Realm and obtaining information about the examination field, Leon's brows furrowed deeply. Much like Andre's painting with world fragments in the Kralik Kingdom, the nature of this dream world before him is a shard of the goddess of pleasure dreams' special weapon, Paradise Lost, possessing a status similar to world fragments. Even though the goddess of pleasure dreams remains in slumber in her pleasant dreams, her Paradise Lost suffered massive fragmentation, reducing her essence, only requiring less than 60 points of contamination value to cut through, but exiting still demands at least 56 or 7 points. What to do? What's going on? Why is there no response from the Aquarius director? As Leon pondered a solution, the other cleaners he had cut alive also sensed something amiss. After calling out a few times and receiving no response, their expressions turned anxious. From previous examinations, Pisces director seemed to be a person of strict rules, serious and earnest by nature, and unlikely to engage in this kind of boring joke, suggesting something outside had gone wrong, keeping him occupied. More terrifyingly, someone dared to meddle with Pisces director, who stands behind the entire cleanup bureau, implying they are either so powerful not to fear retaliation or confident enough to deal with Pisces without the bureau detecting their identity. Not a good character. So, Aquarius director? Or another member of the Slaughter King Association? These thoughts came first, but Leon hesitated only briefly before making a determined decision. He must immediately go outside to see. Since the Dream Realm examination field is still maintained, Pisces director is likely not harmed, possibly in some trouble, but not grave enough to break his focus from maintaining the Dream Realm field, safeguarding Leon and the other cleaners in the examination. If Pisces director finds himself in a dire situation, just barely holding the Dream Realm, then Leon going out now could be just the help he needs. Everyone! Leon immediately unraveled the effect of the silver dagger of cutting, and helped heal the splintered cleaners, sincerely asking the still dumbfounded cleaners for assistance. I need your help. Lord Pisces hasn't responded, perhaps encountering trouble. I plan to forcefully break out, to see if I can assist him. We'll help you out, and then you'll help Pisces director? Faced with Leon's proposal, the cleaners found themselves exchanging glances in disbelief. If an ordinary Tier 3 cleaner made such a statement, their first reaction would undoubtedly be that the person was insane. If a director was caught up, what could a Tier 3 cleaner do? However, this wasn't just anyone speaking, it was Leon, who just completed a solo against 400, a miracle, slicing everyone, including them into 800 pieces. They couldn't help but reconsider. All right. Unconsciously clenching her fists, Abigail took a deep breath and stepped forward first. Tell us how we can assist you. Phew, if she's willing to help, that's half the battle won. After gratefully glancing at Abigail, Leon said, It's simple, I have an abnormal object capable of penetrating the dream realm, but my Leon value is slightly lacking. If a few strong individuals volunteer to be consumed, it would suffice. No, why are you still eating people? Don't worry, the people I eat won't really die. Pisces director remained unresponsive for a long time, and with Senior Amin still outside, Leon was getting a bit anxious. He explained to the confused cleaners in front of him, I have a, let's call it a special ability. In short, I can temporarily increase my strength this way, and the people I eat can be spat out afterward without any harm. Really? I can vouch for what I said. Looking at the silent cleaners, some even secretly backing away, Leon had no choice but to turn his gaze to the shocked Abigail, asking for her verification. Last time, during a survey mission, we encountered an extremely dangerous situation. Senior Ruben of the Scorpio branch, Senior Frankie, and Senior Mona were all eaten by me once. But they are all fine now. The Scorpio branch can vouch for me. Senior Abigail? There does seem to be such an incident. Facing the doubtful eyes of the cleaners, Abigail nodded somewhat rigidly, providing support. Due to confidentiality requirements, Ruben couldn't share the specific task details with me, but they did come back alive. See, I wasn't lying. I just temporarily eat you guys. But they no longer had their original bodies. Question mark. Seeing the cleaners collectively take a step backward upon hearing this, Leon looked at the white-clad girl bewilderedly. Why mention this at such a time? I'm just telling the truth. Facing Leon's astonished gaze, Abigail instinctively took half a step back, then slightly turned her head and said in a low voice, Moreover, before we signed up for the assessment, Director Edward thought you might join. so he held back our application and told us to wait for the next assessment. Also, before coming, the director reminded us that if we couldn't beat you, we should quickly admit defeat, not to linger around you unnecessarily, and if you suddenly went crazy and did something outrageous, we must first report to Pisces director. Didn't you just say before Edward praised me highly? This is his way of praising me? Seeing the cleaners' faces filled with fear after hearing Abigail's recounting, looking ready to scatter at any moment, Leon's cheeks twitched twice, decisively giving up on resolving the situation through peaceful means. With Pisces director not responding and Senior Amin still outside, every second he delayed increased her chances of encountering danger. So, he could only apologize in advance. Suddenly stepping forward half a step, grabbing Abigail's wing, Leon squinted his eyes and raised his knife amidst the cleaners' horrified faces. Sorry. I'll apologize to you after the fact. No way. Dude, are you really going to start eating now? Seeing Leon, who, having been exposed, no longer pretended and went berserk, ready to eat on the spot, the cleaners couldn't help but feel anger rising. Then they all screamed and scattered in all directions. It's not that we lack courage. It's just useless to be brave right now. Earlier, he took on 400 of us effortlessly. Now, he's visibly upset and ready to get serious. Attacking him now is like sliding directly into his mouth. It's over. It's over. Struggling twice without breaking free. Looking at Leon's fierce eyes, Abigail's pretty face turned pale, and a trace of despair flashed in her eyes. Regret not listening to director's words. If only I had heeded Director Edward's advice and not insisted on competing with him, I wouldn't be in this frightening situation. But Director, you should have at least mentioned he eats people. It's crucial information. Ha! Just as Leon was about to chop up the 6-winged roast chicken and first eat her soul, a curious child's voice suddenly sounded in everyone's ears. Immediately, the fleeing cleaners felt their vision blur, and the white sky of the dream assessment field vanished, with the colorful, splendid river of dreams reappearing before their eyes. So many people. A little girl with pigtails was holding Senior Amin's hand, looking up at the panicked cleaners, her cute little face full of expectation as she said, "Are you playing a game? Can Mimi join?" Mimi, one of Pisces director's 4 souls. Leon, who had seen Mimi once at the director's place, immediately recognized her, immediately releasing the despairing Abigail, and quickly running toward them. However, before he could inquire, Amin spoke first. Aquarius director was here. He suddenly appeared and stabbed Pisces director, threatening them to cooperate, or he would kill all the cleaners. Damn it, something really went wrong. Hearing Aquarius had appeared, Leon immediately tensed, hurriedly asking. And then, during the conversation, Pisces director used something, causing him to momentarily daze, then summoned a multicolored phantom which crushed Aquarius director's body. Pointing to a nearby puddle of blood, Amin said uncertainly, "I don't really know what's going on, but Aquarius director definitely didn't die." Even after being sneak attacked and crushed by Pisces, he still had the nerve to smile and bid goodbye to Pisces. But right after driving him away, Pisces suddenly collapsed to the ground and turned into this form. "Hey!" Pulling Amin's clothes hard, the little girl with pigtails pouted, protesting discontentedly. "What do you mean by this form? Everyone says Mimi is very cute." "Ah, sorry." Hearing the girl's protest, Amin slightly nodded apologetically, then explained, "My wording might not sound nice, but Pisces director, I meant no harm, just narrating the situation." "What? This little girl is actually the Pisces director." Leon and Amin's conversation wasn't concealed, and the cleaners who hadn't run far due to venue constraints didn't understand everything but caught the gist, understanding Pisces director's whereabouts. And 400 pairs of eyes all looked over intently. "Oh dear!" Startled by the complex gazes of the cleaners, Pisces director in her little girl version first let out an adorable squeak, then hid behind the familiar Leon, tugging at his pant leg timidly saying, Mimi is that one of the sensible two fish. You all have to listen to Mimi. So, Director of Pisces was attacked and turned into a child? Through the dialogue between Leon and Poop Lady, they barely managed to understand what had just happened. The cleaners, who were fleeing in all directions moments ago, were forced to gather again with determination. Pisces, Your Honor. A female cleaner from the Aries branch cautiously approached a little closer, then stood 5 meters away and shouted, "It's not safe here anymore. The enemy who attacked you could come back to kill at any moment. Could you please send us back right away?" "Okay." Hearing the female cleaner's request, the child version of Director of Pisces nodded in bewilderment, then nervously clung to Leon's pant leg and responded, "Mimi, what should I do to send you all back?" "Huh?" The female cleaner from the Aries branch was momentarily dumbfounded by Director of Pisces' question, then tentatively said, "Just use your abnormal object to send us all back." "Okay." Once again, she obediently nodded. Director of Pisces shook her lopsided pigtails and blinked big eyes as she asked, "Then which abnormal object should Mimi activate to send you all back?" "We're doomed." After listening to the exchange between the female cleaner from the Aries branch and Mimi, the hearts of all the cleaners felt like they were drenched in ice water in the depths of winter, leaving them chilled to the bone. With Director of Pisces in this state, not to mention her soul strength significantly declined, even if her power was stronger than when she looked like an old man, she wouldn't be able to use it with her current mental capacity. And what's even worse is that, with Director of Pisces' strength drastically weakened and the attacker likely to return at any moment, they are trapped in the dream realm, completely clueless about how to get back. Mimi. Leon, who understood this point as well, pondered briefly before asking, "What abnormal objects do you have with you? Can you show them to me?" Based on the existing information, they all arrived in the dream realm through dream fungus spore strain, and Director of Pisces should have the dream-playing colorful fungus, or the Paradise Lost fragment where the mother strain grows. The one keeping all the cleaners in the dream realm should be one of these abnormal objects. If Leon can use his ability to find these abnormal objects and exchange for temporary usage rights through the Unfair Serpent Pact, he should be able to forcefully send everyone back. Unfortunately, although Leon immediately thought of a solution, he was flatly rejected by Director of Pisces. "That's not allowed." As if triggered by some keyword, Mimi immediately let go of Leon's pant leg and covered the pocket on the side of her little skirt, shaking her pigtails vehemently. "Joan told me that no matter who wants my abnormal objects, I absolutely shouldn't give them away. I don't mean to take them, just borrow to have a look. Joan said looking is not allowed either. If you let me look at your abnormal objects, I might be able to send everyone back." "Well." Director of Pisces hesitated upon hearing this but ultimately shook her little head and refused. "No way, no way. Joan must be right. If she stops Mimi from doing something, it's definitely for Mimi's own good." "Whoa, who's this Joan? Why do you listen to her so much?" "Joan is Nyo Nyo." "What's Nyo Nyo?" "Damn it, could she be the Director of Taurus? Does the Director of Taurus actually go by that name? Wait. Never mind what the Director of Taurus's name is. I was just thinking in my mind. I didn't say it out loud. How did you know what I was thinking?" "Because Mimi has a powerful abnormal object." Having read Leon's inner thoughts through unknown means, Director of Pisces puffed out her chest proudly and said, "The abnormal object Nyo Nyo made for me is called Child's Eyes, which allows Mimi to see through the dirty adult's thoughts towards Mimi. If anyone comes with bad intentions to harm Mimi, Mimi will be sent directly back to Nyo Nyo's side." Understood, this Child's Eyes is probably the protection provided by Director of Taurus. After exchanging a glance with Director of Pisces' clear eyes, Leon immediately understood this path was most likely a dead end, because although mentally she was a child, Director of Pisces' mental branding was deeply ingrained. His good brother badge could increase her trust in him, but it couldn't compare to the decades-long friendship she had with Taurus. And as for using deceitful tactics, lying is something bad children do. If you lie to Mimi, Mimi will dislike you. I haven't even started to deceive, Just thought about it, and I already got a warning against deceit. How can I proceed with a lie? Averting his eyes from Director of Pisces' pure gaze, Leon felt a strange sense of guilt creep up in his heart, furrowed his brow and fell silent, contemplating other options. And seeing that he didn't burst into madness and start devouring others, plus with Director of Pisces there to hold the fort, the cleaners finally gathered back together, clustered near Mimi and away from Leon, trying to persuade her earnestly from various angles. Director of Pisces, maybe you should let him see your abnormal objects. No, Nyo will be mad. Who is Nyo? Nyo is the sensible Nyo. Ah, this Director of Pisces. You may not trust him, but you can trust me. No, your soul smells a little stinky. Then maybe me? I. You don't just smell stinky, you stink. Onaji de? After a series of extremely awkward exchanges, one by one, the cleaners trying to cajole the child retreated in defeat, failing to secure a ticket home, and probably annoyed by these stinky adults. Director of Pisces pouted and pulled out a delicate little conch from the pocket of her little skirt, puffing her cheeks to blow it hard. Blub, 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 blub. A series of dream bubbles blew out of the conch and burst one after another. Those cleaners who were relentlessly convincing, even resorting to moral coercion, were terrifyingly stunned to find that their mouths had vanished. This disappearance wasn't merely their lips being forcibly closed, but their entire mouth, from lips to teeth to tongue to throat, every part that could be considered a mouth organ, was replaced by new muscle and nerve tissue the instant the conch was blown, as if the organ called mouth had never existed. You stinky adults, don't surround Mimi. After angrily warning the startled cleaners, Director of Pisces looked around a few times, perhaps still finding Leon's scent a bit better. She snuggled back closer to him, sounding quite displeased. You? Ha! In the surprised expression of Director Pisces, the small seashell she held trembled suddenly, and a puddle of gorgeous phantasms flowed out from the hole just blown with bubbles. Pisces! In the astonished gaze of the crowd, the phantasm, more magnificent than a rainbow, swirled slightly, and finally condensed into the image of a female mermaid, who asked expectantly amidst the haze, "Has the third assessment begun? You? Huh? How did you become like this? No. Who the heck are you?" Facing the suddenly appearing colorful fantasy mermaid, Leon glanced at Director Pisces, who also looked bewildered, and cautiously stepped forward, trying to respond. Her Excellency Pisces encountered some trouble, and this promotion assessment may have to be paused. May I ask who you are? Paused? How can it be paused? Upon hearing Leon's words, the colorful fantasy mermaid suddenly became anxious, her eyes wide open in a cloud-like hue, and she exclaimed angrily, "You promised. You signed a contract with me. How can the assessment be stopped just like that? You are not trustworthy." So what the heck are you doing? Looking at the somewhat agitated, colorful fantasy mermaid before him, Leon was baffled and had to continue asking. It's not about trust. Her Excellency Pisces really isn't available right now, so it can't be considered a deliberate breach. May I inquire what contract you signed with us? Also, what is your identity? Who am I? You are currently in my Paradise Lost Fragments, and you still ask who I am. Paradise Lost Fragments? Upon hearing this, Leon was slightly taken aback, then suddenly realized. The dream-playing colorful fungus that brought him and the other cleaners into the dream realm was a special plant growing in Paradise Lost, which itself is the exclusive weapon of the goddess of pleasure dreams. So, are you the goddess of pleasure dreams? Of course. If I were not the goddess of pleasure dreams, would I still be the king of nightmares? The colorful fantasy mermaid snorted upon hearing, then slightly lifted her chin, urging, "Stop dawdling. Quickly contact the cleanup bureau and send someone over to host the third assessment. You've signed the contract." Third assessment, contract. Listening to these repeatedly mentioned words, Leon squinted his eyes, then politely inquired, "May I ask why you want us to continue the assessment? Also, what contract did the bureau sign with you?" The content of your third assessment is the contract you signed with me. The colorful fantasy mermaid seemed somewhat impatient but explained reluctantly. Your third assessment is to execute a massive group task, and the specific content is to help me ascend back to the divine position and reunite the shattered paradise lost. Question mark. In the description of Dream-Playing Colorful Fungus, it indeed mentioned that the goddess of pleasure dreams was once trapped in her own vivid dream, causing a massive collapse of Paradise Lost. But why would the cleanup bureau help her? Teske. Really troublesome. Seeing the trace of suspicion in Leon's eyes, the colorful fantasy mermaid muttered a few words, then explained with a straight face. Because the King of Nightmares was killed, coupled with the massive consumption by dream-eating anomalous carapaces, the current dream realm has started to become slightly unbalanced, requiring a new god of my stature to fill the void left by the King of Nightmares and the Beetle disaster. Understand? Quickly contact the Cleanup Bureau if you do. No wonder this assessment must be conducted in the dream realm. It turns out it's for cough. Upon hearing this, as the primary creator of the disaster in the dream realm, he involuntarily ground his teeth, trusting the suddenly appearing colorful fantasy mermaid a bit more. Although it was currently impossible to verify the authenticity of her words, firstly, she emerged from Director Pisces Seashell, secondly, the assessment indeed matched the scenario, and thirdly, she constantly urged to contact the Cleanup Bureau. It seemed unlikely to be a fake. All right. Having confirmed the mermaid's credibility wasn't low, Leon courteously nodded towards the partner of the Cleanup Bureau. Goddess, please first undo the effects of Dream-Playing Colorful Fungus. Send us all back, and once we return to the branch office, I will immediately have the director contact the headquarters to fulfill the contract with you. Huh? You're leaving? Yes. Leon nodded and explained. In the previous second assessment, Her Excellency Pisces was ambushed by an enemy, so we had to stop the assessment. So, you can't go back now. Upon hearing this, the mermaid, who was impatient just now, swayed her colorful tail slightly, and a smile suddenly appeared at the corner of her mouth. Good. Very good. Extremely good. Question mark. The slender and smooth tail swayed slightly. The colorful fantasy mermaid disappeared from Leon's sight, swam above everyone, and laughed loudly while facing the river of dreams above them. Humans! Now your Director Pisces is in trouble, and I'm the only one left who can control Paradise Lost and send you back. As a collaborator of the Cleanup Bureau, I want you to delve into the Dream Realm, continue the third assessment, fulfill the contract between me and the Cleanup Bureau, and aid me in ascending back to the Divine Seat. Finally, I promise by my divine name, for those who help me, once you complete the assessment, I will immediately send you out of Paradise Lost, granting you a lifetime of pleasant dreams. As for those who refuse to assist me, hee yourself. Looking at the mermaid above who smiled freely, full of, you don't want to be unable to return home, right? Leon couldn't help but feel his teeth ache. My luck is really unmatched. For such a messed up promotion assessment, a simple matter turned into a pile of big problems. This goddess, just as Leon, troubled, looked at the mermaid, hesitating whether to forcibly take her down and make her send everyone back. Among the cleaners who weren't silenced by the seashell, someone plucked up courage to ask loudly. We are not against helping you, but we have a request. You must first tell us what exactly you want us to do, so that we can decide whether to accept your terms. A reasonable request. Slightly nodding with satisfaction, the colorful fantasy mermaid smiled and said, what you need to do is very simple. Although the King of Nightmares was killed by your Cleanup Bureau, his 7 nightmare emissaries successfully survived, returned to the demonic soul abyss, and temporarily took charge of spreading nightmares. And what you need to do is escort me into the depths of the dream realm, into the demonic soul abyss amid the residual Nightmare Legion's raids. Reach the Snow Ice City established by the 7 nightmare emissaries. Help me defeat and completely enslave them, giving me the chance to reascend to the divine position. Everyone. There must be unimaginable danger within that nightmare city, Snowmount Ice City. A Pisces branch cleaner, with a particularly grave expression, narrated. You all know, Our Pisces branch was founded by the first-generation Pisces director, who inherited a large portion of her legacy. Among those legacies, there is an abnormal object called the Mind Wheel, which is specifically used to detect the situations of the dream realm, shadow realm, and realm of the dead, these immaterial realms. This abnormal object hangs opposite the office desk of our director. I saw it once when I went to submit a report. The warning light on it, belonging to the dream realm, has always been lit, and the position is precisely at the deepest part of the demonic soul abyss, which should be that Snowmount Ice City. I've also heard rumors about the situation in Snowmount Ice City. After the Pisces branch cleaner finished sharing the known intelligence, a cleaner from the Aries branch also stood up, nervously sharing. There seems to be some large-scale disaster occurring in the dream realm recently, causing a large number of nightmares to escape, lingering in reality and occupying many people's dreams, trapping them in dreams without waking up. Then, our Aries branch director assigned many temporary tasks, letting us second and third level cleaners use the abnormal objects distributed by headquarters to expel these nightmares that have escaped from the dream realm. During several expulsion tasks, I participated in many nightmares when locked onto by headquarters' dream guiding needle and forcibly expelled by us, would desperately cry out, begging not to be treated like that, saying they didn't want to return to Snowmount Ice City or something. I've also received similar tasks. Me too. The nightmares I've encountered said the same thing. That Snowmount Ice City is clearly not a good place. After the Aries branch cleaner shared their experience, a total of over 80 cleaners stood up, expressing that they had carried out similar tasks and heard about the infamous Snowmount Ice City from the mouths of those nightmares. It is said that this demon den, feared by countless nightmares, is built on the ruins of the original Nightmare Palace. It has the fresh red color of blood as well as the cold white of ice and snow. If you get close enough, you will be eroded by a terrifying demonic sound and subjected to intense mental corruption. The actual ruler of Snowmount Ice City is the Snow Maiden, one of the 7 nightmare emissaries under the King of Nightmares. She managed to escape back to the dream realm after the king's death, but for some reason, she seems to be tainted with an aura of something extremely terrifying. It is said that just by slightly approaching her, one will feel a soul-crushing pressure. Even other nightmare emissaries dare not approach her. Saint spirits sent by other dream realm true gods to inquire about the situation, merely getting within 5 steps of her, could not withstand the tremendous pressure, trembling and kneeling immediately. Well done, Snow Maiden. Listening to these chaotic dream realm gossips, with a strange expression, Leon couldn't help but open the panel. Glancing at the hidden gold badge he acquired after releasing the dream-eating anomalous carapace in the dream realm back then. Nightmare of nightmares. Extremely mad and completely reckless. For a moment's pleasure, you would even destroy a world. And now, you have become the most feared nightmare in the heart of the King of Nightmares. Wearing effect. Deeply feared by the Lord of Nightmares, you are now equivalent to being above all nightmares, and no nightmare is qualified to affect you. Advancement path. None. Hidden trait. No need to wear as a supreme villain planning to utterly destroy the entire dream realm. Your notorious name will resound throughout the dream realm, and all dream realm creatures below true god level will endure immense fear by merely sensing your aura. So, the so-called soul-corrupting brainwashing sound might be the Snow King's March that the Snow Maiden heard from me, and the aura of that terrifying presence probably stems from the lust dream invader that the director took from me and lent to the Snow Maiden. That thing has long been one of my main abnormal objects, cloaked in much of my aura, also triggering the Nightmare of Nightmares effect. Or perhaps the Snow Maiden who had been traversing the dream realm at my side absorbed much of my aura over time. So let's proceed to a vote. Just as Leon was listening to the gossip while analyzing the situation in Snowmount Ice City, the temporary meeting of the cleaners was reaching its conclusion. Being one of the 2 strongest cleaners, aside from a certain people-eating pervert, the death god, enveloped in hazy gray mist, spoke. I think we can accept the terms of the goddess of pleasure dreams. Nightmare emissaries have abilities similar to ordinary saint spirits, and both Abigail from the Scorpio branch and I are veteran level 1 cleaners, capable of killing a saint spirit in a 1-on-1 or facing 2 at the same time. Apart from the two of us, Rudy from the Taurus branch, Ashima from the Aries branch, and over 10 veteran level 2 cleaners all have the ability to resist a Saint Spirit one-on-one. With some coordination, we might even achieve kills in a multi-versus-1 situation. And after the King of Nightmares was killed, there are no true gods in the demonic soul abyss now. The Nightmare Emissaries, with powers similar to Saint Spirits, are the highest level combat force, and our side, with over 20 Saint Spirit level people against 7, clearly has the advantage. Well, it's hard to say. A cleaner from the Aries branch stood out, hesitantly reminding, Mason, we trust your ability, but even with little difference in high-end combat, our numbers are still too small. The number of nightmares in the demonic soul abyss is over 1 million, and with just our 400 people it might be hard to handle. Why not just not handle them? The Silver Man, who got slashed by Leon within 5 seconds during the second assessment, confidently spoke. My ability can also be used on others. Even though the effect is limited when distributed among more than 400 people, it can still elevate our speed to a level that ordinary nightmares can't catch up to. We just have to push through, and we can quickly pass through the demonic soul abyss where the nightmares reside and reach the deepest Snowmount Ice City. And the aura on the Snow Maiden will make ordinary nightmares instinctively want to flee, so the number of nightmares in Snowmount Ice City shouldn't be many, and it would be good enough if there are some elites. I think so too. The Horned Man, who previously had conflicts with Leon, also stood up, adding with squinted eyes. At that time we can completely split into 2 groups. Those of us who can deal with Saint Spirits will encircle and kill the Nightmare Emissaries, while the rest handle the elite nightmares and seal off the entrance to Snowmount Ice City, fending off those ordinary nightmares possibly being called for support. Although the number of nightmares is nearly infinite and this blocking would certainly not last long, as long as we kill the Nightmare Emissaries quickly enough, then everything will not be a problem. But, can we really quickly defeat all Nightmare Emissaries? After the Horned Man supplied the tactical details, the Pisces branch cleaner who spoke first reminded with a worried expression. Other Nightmare Emissaries aside, that Snow Maiden can make saints kneel before her. Even if she isn't a true god yet, her skills shouldn't be far off, right? She can be dealt with by the goddess of pleasure dreams. Having recovered from the previous crisis where she was almost devoured, Abigail, with a slightly pale face, said, The Snow Maiden is an elite saint close to a true god, whereas the goddess of pleasure dreams is a former true god who has lost much of her power. Their current levels should be relatively close, perhaps even slightly in favor of the goddess of pleasure dreams. Plus, with our support, she should be able to suppress and defeat the Snow Maiden not too difficultly. But as for the goddess of pleasure dreams, I'm hesitant to say. Although she emerged from the Pisces director and seems to genuinely have a contract with the Bureau, she may not necessarily stand on our side. Therefore, we need to add another layer of insurance. Noticing how, after Abigail's words, everyone looked towards him, Leon could not help but blink, then returned their gaze with a sincere smile. All right, I'm willing to be that insurance. You are willing to be the insurance, but we are a bit hesitant to let you be it. Seeing Leon's gentle and sincere smile and recalling his previous crazy behavior when trapped in the dream realm, the scalp of the crowd of cleaners couldn't help but prickle, and the nearly devoured Abigail's face instantly turned pale. In terms of pure strength, Leon is absolutely qualified to be that insurance. After all, he beat 400 on his own, and without a true god present, it seems he really couldn't be taken down. In terms of combat ability, this madman's strength exceeds that of all 400-plus cleaners combined. If he weren't spread too thin to eliminate all Nightmare Emissaries, they wouldn't need others. He could annihilate in that place called the Icy City on his own. But the critical issue is that while his battle prowess is sufficient, his mental state certainly raises concerns, and his bizarre abilities and strange quirks make others instinctively feel cold at heart. If some string in his mind connects wrong and he suddenly goes mad during a fight, well, thank you, but, if possible, please remain on standby and act only when we face danger. Considering that besides agreeing to the conditions of the goddess of pleasure dreams, there seemed to be no second path, with a mindset of drinking poison to quench thirst, Death God Mason, representing the cleaners, reluctantly accepted Leon's goodwill. Goddess of pleasure dreams, waving away the abnormal object, mental space. Used for the meeting, Death God Mason looked up and shouted at the impatient-looking goddess of pleasure dreams above. We accept the conditions you propose to proceed with the third assessment. You humans are always so suspicious. Then let's go. The goddess of pleasure dreams, having waited half the day, saw through the cleaner's wariness and defenses. Though dissatisfied, she did not object, simply humming under her breath and then unfastening a shell shielded in front of her, throwing it toward the cleaners. What the? Before the group could discern what the shell had, the sleek, arc-shaped shell suddenly expanded 1,000-fold, directly scooping all cleaners from the ground. Following that, the radiant river of dreams above people's heads began to ripple with intense volatility, countless mixed dream realms quietly slicing out layers of distinct, unusual worlds. These worlds composed of endless similar bubbles each have completely different characteristics, causing a distinct array of feelings. Some are gloomy, others are vivid, some obscure figures, some barren and desolate. No matter how different these worlds are from each other, they share the same feature, which is that near the goddess of pleasure dreams floats a giant shell carrying more than 400 figures. This is the existence form of the dream realm. As Leon tilted his head upwards in surprise, gazing at the various layered yet simultaneously existent worlds above, a familiar voice arose in his ear. Leading Pisces director to Leon, the woman standing next to Leon looked up at the fragmented dream river above and gently explained. Leon, the dream realm is simultaneously a non-material world without any physical entity and a special world that is completely mingled and overlapped. Demonic Soul Abyss, Paradise Lost, Climb Moon Well Path, Reflecting Empty Valley, Lone Walker Mountain, Return to Leaf Sea. These places each represent different dream realms, isolated yet coexisting. The way the dream realm exists is very special. Although where we are belongs to the goddess of pleasure dreams Paradise Lost, we're not only existing alone here but simultaneously exist in each layer of dream realm. The distinction is that only where we are now is absolutely real, whereas existing in the rest of the dream realm means we are merely a figment of a living being's dream there. Only a true God can turn false into true, carve apart those mingling dream realms, and escort us through them. Though not entirely understanding, I still thank the senior for the science lesson. Slightly blinking, Leon, half understanding, joined everyone in stepping on the goddess of pleasure dreams, shell, plunging from the wrecked Paradise Lost, descending continuously through bizarre realms. As they entered different dream realms in sequence, their bodies exhibited wondrous changes according to the characteristics of those realms, sometimes reverting to human form, sometimes seated on divine thrones, sometimes soaring in the sky, sometimes cycling through life and death. Various unimaginable anomalies surfaced, and Leon even exchanged an eerie glance with essentially himself from 5 or 6 minutes ago within a certain dream realm. We are now at the junction of Looking Back Cemetery and Shadow Drag Passage, at the place between cycle dreams and prophetic dreams. His form elongated, becoming countless overlapping figures, Amian explained in unison. Upon entering Looking Back Cemetery, you keep repeating everything you do, meeting your past self, whereas Shadow Drag Passage leads to the future, akin to having a prophetic dream where you can briefly peek into one of many possibilities of the future. Normally, under the protection of a true god, these two worlds should be separable, but the goddess of pleasure dreams seems to have sustained heavy damage, thus failing to fully separate the dream realms. Leon, beneath Shadow Drag Passage lies Demonic Soul Abyss. We are about to arrive. Are we finally arriving? After smiling at his self from 5 minutes ago and observing how his other self also jumped in shock, Leon curiously asked, Senior Amian, what about the Demonic Soul Abyss? What exactly is the Demonic Soul Abyss like? The rule in the Demonic Soul Abyss is somewhat simpler. Numerous Amayan seniors shadowily spoke in unison. Upon entering the Demonic Soul Abyss without true god protection, the nightmare that you fear most will directly appear behind you. Will the nightmare you fear the most appear behind you? After hearing Senior Amin's response, Leon couldn't help but be slightly taken aback, and then began to ponder what he feared the most. However, before he could come up with an answer, the shell ship beneath him leisurely turned and plunged into the next layer of the dream realm. Whoosh! Countless stretched shadows instantly merged, and the moment the shell ship successfully reached its destination, the world which had been vague and indistinct returned to clarity. The river of dreams, which had once hung high above everyone's heads, silently flipped over and settled alongside the shell ship, transforming from the colorful and magnificent Milky Way of paradise lost into a nearly vertical, pitch-black waterfall brimming with countless shattered dreams, sagging slightly as it plummeted downward. We've arrived. Without the divinity of a true god, forcibly guiding over 400 cleaners through more than 10 layers of the dream realm, the goddess of pleasure dreams had presumably expended a substantial amount of energy, and the vibrant colors surrounding her visibly dimmed. Looking weary, the goddess of pleasure dreams descended from the air, and as her mermaid tail slapped the water, a vast, dark wave surged forth, sweeping all the cleaners off the shell ship and into the nearly vertical black waterfall. However, as the panicked cleaners tried to stabilize themselves, worried about falling into the abyss, and began employing methods to fly, the surroundings suddenly rotated 90 degrees again, transforming the straight-dropping black waterfall into a surging, forward-rolling river. Don't be afraid. Extending a hand to support Leon's underarm and pulling him up from the river, the mistress of Dung said calmly. In the dream realm, directions aren't that absolute. Except for certain specific falling dreams, up, down, left, and right aren't so clearly defined, and they are also influenced by your cognition. So, even though the true demonic soul abyss continues to fall endlessly, as long as you tell yourself that your body is not falling but walking on a constantly forward-moving great river, you can stand steadily on its surface. Can it really be like this? After listening to Senior Amin's explanation, Leon began to tentatively hypnotize himself with her help, constantly performing self-suggestion, and he was surprised to find that in a world as subjective as the dream realm, deceiving himself seemed to have a marvelous effect. By repeatedly telling himself that the river beneath his feet was not falling but rolling forward, he found that even gravity obeyed his thoughts and gradually flipped over, pressing him onto the river's surface. The dream realm truly is a miraculous place. By the way, Senior Amin, how did you know? Ha! Just as Leon couldn't help but exclaim in surprise and wanted to ask the mistress of Dung why she understood the dream realm so well. His recognition of orientation wasn't entirely stable after just learning to self-hypnotize, and his foot slipped slightly, directly sending him plummeting into the abyss. Watch out! As Leon instinctively reached out to grab something to stabilize himself, the mistress of Dung seemed to foresee this happening, extending her hand to prop up Leon under his arms and pulling him back up. When talking, your inner concentration decreases, so until you completely adapt to the orientation of the demonic soul abyss, you better not speak, or you might plummet all the way down. After warning Leon once, Senior Amin didn't continue speaking but supported Leon on the dark river surface, beginning to stabilize her understanding of orientation. The surrounding cleaners, hearing their exchange, began emulating the two by closing their mouths and starting to hypnotize themselves. However, deceiving oneself wasn't easy, and even after knowing the correct method, someone would occasionally slip down a considerable distance, and it took the cleaners over half an hour to fully adjust to the new orientation. Not bad. Adapting quite quickly, seeing everyone finally stand firm on the river and no one slipping downward for a long time, the colorful mermaid nodded in satisfaction, then withdrew her protection, folded her arms, and said, "The Cleanup Bureau selected the demonic soul abyss for the third assessment, presumably aiming for you to learn to face your inner fears during missions. But that's not my concern. I only want to regain my divine position and have no interest in training cleaners. So I left a bit of Paradise Lost's blessing on you, so you don't confront your fears immediately. However, this blessing isn't permanent. If you're defeated by a nightmare, your inner fear will be ignited, breaking through my blessing and dragging your will down into the depths of the demonic soul abyss, shattering you completely to become nourishment for the resurrection of the King of Nightmares." After briefly describing the situation of the demonic soul abyss, the body of the goddess of pleasure dreams twitched slightly, losing her mermaid form, and turned back into a patch of colorful light, which flowed into the conch she had previously inhabited. I've expended a lot and need a brief rest. As for the location of Mishua Bingcheng, it's deep in the demonic soul abyss. Just keep moving forward. So, has the third assessment truly begun? Looking at the conch, which after indicating the direction, silently hovered above everyone without further activity, the cleaners immediately tensed up, preparing to force their way through the Nightmare River amid countless nightmare attacks. However, everyone, don't rush just yet. Under Leon's somewhat puzzled gaze, Senior Amin suddenly addressed the cleaners. Even with Ashima's silver glide ability, it's too dangerous to cross the Nightmare River like this. I suggest not rushing forward but first focusing on concealing your own aura. This way, it might still attract a large number of nightmares, but it can somewhat reduce the difficulty of this assessment and make our attack more covert. Makes sense. After listening to the Mistress of Dung's proposal, Death nodded in agreement, then immediately asked, "Does anyone have an abnormal object that can conceal auras? Preferably one effective on a group, with long-lasting effects, and can maintain its power during high-speed movement." The cleaners, upon hearing this, could only shake their heads one after another. Abnormal objects that conceal auras are common, with many cleaners possessing one. But combining the conditions of group effectiveness, long-lasting duration, and efficacy during high-speed movement makes it extremely rare. Seeing no one stepping forward with a solution, the Mistress of Dung smiled gratefully, then flipped her wrist to reveal several bottles of yellow potions, cheerfully saying, "If no one has one, how about trying my potions?" "Oh, I see." Watching Big Poop Lady enthusiastically handing out strange potions to all the cleaners, Leon's expression turned strange. This is feeding stones. This must be feeding stones. After hearing about Senior Amayan's illustrious history from Philea, and knowing she would also participate in the assessment this time, I specifically did some secret research on Senior Amayan's resume. Even though my mere Class 3 cleaner access only let me see some files, Senior Amayan's features were overly distinctive. Whether it was how she joined the cleanup bureau or the methods and assessments in various missions, everything was inseparable from the word poop. Especially the potions she took out, while extremely potent in effect, if consumed, let's just say you'll either uncontrollably start making poop like crazy, or outright start eating poop. And Senior Amayan seems to be the type who is passionate about research, not performing many tasks normally, and even fewer with other branches, so not many people seem to be aware of her hobby. Among the cleaners who came to participate in the assessment, aside from a few who tactfully declined with strange expressions, the majority were fooled by her kind demeanor and took the potions she handed out, drinking them without any guard. Some even smacked their lips as if savoring them. And not long after, all who drank her potions started emitting a unique and intense scent that easily masked their original aura, perfectly concealing everyone's presence. Except, what's this smell? Strange. Why does it smell sort of like musk? You all stay away from me. Leon swiftly stepped back several paces, with eyes twitching from the potent stench wafting in the breeze, then took out the silver dagger of cutting and wildly swung it, clearing away all the incoming poopy stench, finally feeling a bit better. Senior Amayan, satisfied after handing out potions, looked surprised at the silver dagger in Leon's hand, then regretfully put away the only bottle of transparent, colorless potion. "You wield the dagger well. Since you can eliminate aromas yourself, I won't give you my potions." I'll do it myself." Although Senior Amayan saved the colorless potion for me, probably out of consideration for being colleagues in the Virgin Branch, Leon really didn't dare entrust his taste to Senior Amayan's decency, so he had to proactively change the subject. "By the way, Senior Amayan, why don't those who drank the potions sense any smell? Because my potions can affect the senses of the drinker, naturally including the nose." After casually explaining the reason, Amayan tugged the curious Pisces director and said to Leon with a smile, "Don't worry, according to Director Olivia's instructions, unless absolutely necessary, the potions used for companions of the Virgin Branch are mostly specially formulated. Although the effect might be inferior, nothing that ordinary people can't handle." I see. The director is wise. Leon awkwardly smiled and continued chatting with Big Poop Lady, before inquiring about other intelligence concerning the demonic soul abyss. Meanwhile, the cleaners who hid their aura with the potions finished their preparations for departure. Hold tight! With a light yell, the silver-smooth Ashima, once shattered by Leon's wild swings, leapt up like a silver fish, then suddenly exploded, releasing numerous silvery raindrops that drenched over 400 cleaners, transforming them all into shiny little silver men. And now completely coated in silver, Leon was surprised to find that the world before him seemed to slow down dramatically. The turbulent black waters of the Nightmare River, though still swift, now surged forward much slower. Apart from that, even the fragmented dream realms flowing in the Nightmare River appeared slower, with only those equally covered by silver able to maintain their original speed. Is this slowing down time? Or similar to Philea's scepter of time division, significantly increasing one's reaction speed? Overcome with curiosity, Leon reached out and touched his silver-colored arm. Name: Minashir Cursed Mercury. Speed: Flesh, Metal. Appearance: silvery white special metal. Possesses high fluidity while able to solidify completely under willpower. Can grant the body unique properties identical to cursed silver upon full integration with flesh. Abilities: Speedster, Flesh Assimilation, Metal Body. Cost: extra speed gained after activating Cursed Mercury will be deducted equivalently from the user's life. Granted by holder's permission, no cost payment required. File: Mercury Lake Dungeon. Minashir contains a large natural mercury pool, once a major mercury production site for the Vandastone Kingdom, until 9 years ago when the secret society Earth Essence Society attacked Minashir, causing the mercury pool to reverse flood the old district. The old district of Mercury City, with a total of 1525 residents, were all eroded by reverse flooding secretive mercury into flesh, transforming into mercury beings, unable to maintain a solid form. Only a young man named Ashima A. Alpha successfully escaped. Evaluation: one of the works of the secret society Earth Essence Society. A special anomaly with equally significant effects and costs. Although cursed mercury is not ordinary mercury, caution is advised to stay away from high-temperature areas, as both the user and this anomaly object are at risk of suffering great damage. Contamination value: 19.9, 16.1. Minashir Cursed Mercury. Seeing the name with a strong sense of déjà vu, Leon's brow slightly furrowed. As another little silver man of the Virgin Branch, the anomaly comprising Senior Peony's body is called Mabus Cursed Silver, a name quite similar to this, and both are the handiwork of that secret society called Earth Essence Society. This matter: make a note. Once the assessment is complete and back to the Bureau, I'll need to inform Senior Peony. This intelligence, similar to his situation, might be useful for him. Leon. Seeing Leon frown after touching the silver metal on his arm, Big Poop Lady asked puzzledly, "What's wrong? Is there something strange about this thing?" "A bit, but it's unrelated to this assessment. Sorry for keeping you waiting. Let's head out too." Watching the cleaners turn into beams of silver light advancing into the demonic soul abyss, Leon apologized with a smile, then started moving, chasing after the distant cleaners. After hearing his explanation, Amayan didn't inquire further and nodded, also following suit. However, wait a minute. Pisces director, pulling Amayan out from the speed state, raised her smooth little face, pouting unhappily. "Bottle this pretend not to know you game is so boring. How long do we have to keep playing?" "Just a little longer, hold on." Upon hearing Pisces director's slightly unhappy inquiry, Amin pulled from his rapid state, smiled and then crouched down slightly, bringing his gaze level with Pisces director's. With a gentle and kind expression, he coaxed softly, "Although this game seems a bit boring now, when we reveal the truth later, everyone will be very happy." "Will everyone be happy?" Upon hearing Amin's words, Pisces director couldn't help but blink and then clenched his little fist, encouraging himself. "All right, if it can make everyone happy, then Mimi can endure a bit longer." Thank you for your hard work. Smiling and patting Pisces Director on the head, Amin said nothing more, but took her somewhat chubby hand and turned into two silver arcs of light, chasing after the backs of the cleaners ahead. By the time they gradually caught up with the main group, the cleaners, who went ahead, relying on the rapid group state, had already traversed the black waves of Nightmare River, arriving deeper into the demonic soul abyss. And with as many as 400 dazzling silver ribbons, they advanced with great momentum towards the depths of the demonic soul abyss, and even with the potion from Amin to mask their aura, it was impossible not to be noticed. During the cleaners' journey, tens of thousands of nightmares were alarmed one after another, climbing out from the dreams within the Black River, trailing behind them along the disturbances of the silver light. However, nightmares are not known for their speed, and most would fall behind after a while, with only a few barely able to match the pace of the cleaners. Moreover, the nightmares within the demonic soul abyss have clear territory divisions. Those few who could keep up were mostly intercepted by other powerful nightmares in their territories, making it rare for any to truly catch up. Faced with such scattered attacks that weren't a threat, the elite from the cleanup bureau, attending the promotion assessment, handled them with ease, swiftly eliminating each one. Even when a big wave of nightmares gathered occasionally, Abigail, responsible for covering the rear, only needed to lightly flap her wings, and those chasing nightmares would be purified by the countless light feathers, shedding their vicious appearances and falling back into the Nightmare River with peaceful expressions. These cleaners are good, but only just good enough. They haven't reached the level to escape her control yet. Hidden within a conch shell, after watching the cleaners handle the nightmares, the goddess of pleasure dreams, who had been somewhat worried, finally felt completely relieved. The content of the third promotion assessment she spoke of was not entirely false, but there were not many truths either. At least the so-called contract with the cleanup bureau was complete nonsense. Contracts, which constrain both sides and maintain their interests, are only possible when the power gap between the two parties is not too large. And even though the cleanup bureau has declined, it still has astonishing resources. If they fully mobilized, they could still field hundreds of true god-level forces, and even several pillar gods in one go. For the goddess of pleasure dreams, who fell from the divine seat and now can only be considered a large spirit, forget about a fair contract. Getting a verbal promise from the bureau was a stretch, given her status as a Dream Realm native receiving extra special treatment. And in such an overly unequal situation, aims like defeating and enslaving 7 nightmare messengers, reconsolidating the fragments of Paradise Lost, and helping the goddess of pleasure dreams return to the divine seat naturally didn't exist. In reality, the third assessment arranged by the Bureau was just to delve into the depths of the demonic soul abyss and investigate the suddenly appearing Bubble Tea City, seeing if the movements of the nightmare messengers might lead to the early revival of the King of Nightmares. As for why the goddess of pleasure dreams was brought along, it boiled down to 2 words: useful. She could be used to customize the examination terrain at will, serve as a transportation tool through the dream realm, and even if, after some investigation, it was found that the King of Nightmares was really about to awaken, she could use her opposite attributes to severely punish the troublesome King of Nightmares. And as the examination paper printer plus bus plus torture device, the goddess of pleasure dreams surely understood her role, always doing the work of the tool god without daring to have any other wild thoughts, until a small golden knife stabbed into the heart of the elderly version of Pisces Director from behind. I'm really so lucky. This is simply a perfect opportunity. Looking at the 400+ cleaners below who were fooled by her, rushing towards the depths of demonic soul abyss, the goddess of pleasure dreams inside the conch couldn't help but grin. After being picked up by Pisces Director on a patrol in the dream realm, she had been used by him for nearly 50 years, gaining some understanding of Pisces Director's soul state. When she sensed an anomaly in Pisces Director's soul, likely due to a sneak attack, she immediately realized this was probably the only opportunity in her life. Now Pisces Director's soul has prematurely replaced. His intelligence has regressed to a child's level, leaving only herself knowing the true content of the third assessment. If by this opportunity she could fool these elite cleaners into invading demonic soul abyss and help her capture 7 nightmare messengers, then she could drain these messengers' authority and get involved with the King of Nightmares' original nightmare, thereby reclaiming divinity. Even more splendid, according to what she heard from Pisces' director, the King of Nightmares seemed to have been eliminated by the Bureau while trying to invade the real world. When she stakes her claim on its authority, it wouldn't even have the ability to resist, leaving her free to take as she wished. Perfect. This is truly too perfect. I am indeed the luckiest goddess. Envisioning the beautiful future where she seized this perfect gap to regain the divine seat again, the enthusiastic goddess of pleasure dreams couldn't help but roll excitedly in the conch. If not for the fear of making noise and getting caught, she would have loved to laugh aloud 3 times immediately. And it's not just about laughing at others. It's specifically about laughing at the Bureau's foolishness, at Pisces' director's short-sightedness, for letting her seize the opportunity, not only breaking free from imprisonment but also finding a way to achieve everything at once. Huh? What's happening? Noticing that the cleaners who were originally advancing at high speed suddenly inexplicably all stopped, the pocket-sized goddess hurriedly leaned to the shell's opening, squinting outside to see.